right, Shalom. Shalom, peace, peace, peace. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osayani Kitsuya, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Wagwan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Habarigani, Ciao, Akwaba, Madasi, Itise, Jambo, Mimini Kofi, the Franco Kutana the Wewe, Boker To, Boker Tav, Grand Rising, greetings to all. Barakalat Sham Yahaba, Anai Kofai, Kohel to Christ, Mashalam Chi, Tida, Achet at Zion, Kwam, Yachastel at Tasadaak. Shalom, everybody. Peace. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate, love you today. Thank you. We appreciate your presence. And we're thankful and grateful to come before you one more again. Hopefully all is well with you. Hopefully everybody's doing well this week. Hopefully your weekend went well. Thank you everybody who was with us last night for the 12 Bits of Christmas thing we've been doing. We'll be doing it again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time, as well as thank you to everybody who was on coming in from Early Riser Bible Study session. We thank Minister Dr. Tamar for using the gift, and thank you guys for staying on and even being on a little late and starting a little late this rising. We appreciate love you, and we thank you for being on with us, and thank you everybody again for all that you do all over the diaspora. We're appreciative of you all. Alrighty, so we give our honor and praise once again to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful unto her for all that she does for the diaspora and behind the scenes for us as well. Alrighty, to the moderators, Minister Airsoft, SOC, Lottie, Diane, everybody, we appreciate, love you. Thank you so much. Don't forget, December 28th is fast approaching. Women in Red virtual conference, if you will, and then or tea, and then December 31st will be our watch party. Women in Red, I believe it's going to be about 7 p.m. Eastern New York time on the 28th, which is the last Saturday of the year, and December 31st, the last evening of the year. Watch night service will start about 9 p.m. Eastern New York time. All right. So thank you to Da family. We appreciate, love you. Hopefully all is well. Thank you for joining us on multiple platforms. If you would like to give any kind of donation or anything like that, we appreciate, love you for doing so. And also, if you would like to even just like, share, subscribe, hit the notification tab, share this live with other persons. We're kind of going through a thing where they're making it very apparent that they don't want most persons to see when we're on. So just to kind of allow persons to know that we're on, they're making it difficult for us to be seen. Also, too, I know that there's stuff as far as TikTok's supposedly going down next month. So make sure, especially we have some other platforms that we're getting used to using, besides even Clapper, besides Facebook. There's one called Lemon 8. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to use it, but literally like the fruit, Lemon, and then the number 8. You could literally type if you have TikTok page, you can literally type your TikTok information on there, and it apparently transfers everything over from what you have on TikTok as far as your friends and things. I don't know if it transfers your videos, but I think anybody, if they follow you, whatever, or if you follow anybody, if you're friends with anybody, whatever the case might be, it helps you. So we're looking into that. I haven't started posting anything on there, but I have made an account. And just in case, since it supposedly works in the same fashion that TikTok does, might even be a TikTok company or a TikTok owned company or whatever, just them redoing it for the US or something like that. Excuse me. We might transfer over to there. So just letting that be known. I'll give you more information as we get over there. Some of you I think are already on there, and when I went over, we already, I think, became friends automatic and everything. So if you get a chance to check that out, but we'll get into that later. As we know, we're getting back into the series. We really just took a day off so we could do our live session on Q&A yesterday. So we're getting back into this Neely Fuller Code series. So if you'd like to go ahead and get to your books, if you will, the United Independent Compensatory Code slash system slash concept. The author is Neely, Neely, last name Fuller, Fuller Jr., Neely Fuller Jr. If you're looking for the same version I'm going to be using, I'm going and using one that does have a lot of advertisements, but I'm going to be using one that is on if you Google Neely Fuller Jr. PDF, it'll be the first one that pops up. It says scribed, SCRIBD, scribed. And if you go on there, you'll be able to get a free copy. Some of you have been buying them and stuff like that. Praise God that you've been able to get them so you can study and research and do all that great stuff, right? But we're gonna go ahead and get into this. As we've said, this book is something that you should try to read all the way through. Maybe see if you can get an audio book, something like that, so you can hear it all the way through. But this book is one that needs to be studied, right? So we're going and doing the best that we can in our series to kind of hit certain hot spots. But we want to make sure that it's recognized that if you're going through this information, it is something you should be studied. It's based on code, it's based on culture, it's based on even trying to redefine what you thought culture was and helping you to recognize code that works for you and against you, and what we should do to make sure that we're coming out of racism, white supremacy. I'm on. We are using scripture as well to make sure that we verify certain things. We are making sure that we talk from a prism, right? Just because it's a black person talking about this, we're not going to act like just because they're black and it black means that everything that they say is the word of Yah. That being said, though, we're not going to shy away from reality, right? And not just what was real through the prism of Yah. That's our reality, but also someone else's reality that is anti-Christ, that's anti-Negro, that's anti-Israel. So we're going to have some honest dialogue and some honest conversation on that today. So we thank you all. We appreciate love you once again. We'll say hello to everybody real quick, and we'll get ready to do our Bible pledge. If you'd like to stand to your feet or reverence Yahweh in whichever manner you are able to. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Thank you once again for joining us. If you join us on the podcast, later on any other platform, if you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we appreciate love you and thank you so much. How you doing, Nelson? Thanks for being on. How you doing, Brother Craig, Sister Beck, Minister Shantae, Cultural Prospect, Stent, Cole, Crystal, July, is it July Osoko or July? Yeah, July Osoko possibly. Pray for them pronouncing it correctly. How you doing, Dennis? Monica, extra large Linda. I'm not sure if that's what it is. XL Linda. Or no, X Linda X. Sorry, X Linda X. Sorry about that. Ryan, Tabrea, Savage, Minister Dr. Tamar, Apostle Dr. Tamar, thank you once again for the word. Brother Lamar, cousin Uncle Grampy, okay. How you doing? T. Marco, Vincent, everybody who's coming in here, thank you for being on. Big Brother Thomas, Minister Select Raj, Brian, Darius, Dark Matter, Chrissy, Rockstar, DJ Big C William, Zion Rock, Garbear, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Privilege Space, thanks for being on. Tweety, everybody come on in. How you doing? I'm sorry, I'm having problems. Halime Brahim. I don't know if I'm even saying it if I'm in the ballpark. How you doing, Keith? Sister Greta, user 82673, etc. Taburi, Sister Sylvia, Rodney, Lottie, Dottie, everybody come on in. If I miss you once again, charge it to my head, not to my heart. We're thankful to everybody. Thank you for being on with us on this rise. And we know you could be doing a bunch of other things, but the fact that you decided to spend some time with us, we do not take that lightly. Also, once again, just a reminder, tonight, before we do our live session that we always do at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, we're back on track with being at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time for these 12 Myths of Christmas, the series that we're doing. So please, man, please, sir, if you can join us for that, if the babies can join up. And when you come on as well, we're asking, please, man, please, sir, feel free to show your faces. It's a family atmosphere. It's a family dynamic. We're learning, we're growing. We're also using this, even though we don't celebrate Christmas, we do comprehend that there's a lot of persons that deal with a lot of negative influence and feeling lonely and feeling like families aren't necessarily connected to what we're doing, and sometimes feeling like we're ostracized besides all the other oppressive things that are in society for us. So we're making sure that we do that together. So if you'd like to join us, make sure that you do so. It'll be updated on the Google Calendar invite, and we'll do our best. It'll also be updated on Patreon, right? Remember, you can go on there. Patreon, even as a free member, any member should be able to go on there and get the link. And look out for the link for the YouTube video that we'll be using as well to do our watch party and all that great stuff. Alrighty, okay. Let's go ahead and get ready to do our Bible pledge. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate, love you. Thank you for your patience. I'll be eating a little bit today. I apologize. Need to get a little bit of. Need to make sure that I'm getting some citrus today. I'm on. So you have to forgive me. I'm gonna try my best not to be rude. All right, everybody ready? If you can put your right hand in the air or your device or your Bible and just repeat after me. Alrighty. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahweh. Amen. Which is in Yahweh's name, his Shem, his authority. Amen. Alrighty. And Shalom, peace, peace, peace. How you doing, Prince? How you doing, King Beef, Alec, everybody coming in. Goon, everybody. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and get right in. So we're going into the book. The book, once again, is entitled The United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept. It is by Neely Fuller Jr. And we've been going over this for a while. I think this is part 5 of the series now. And we're going to be starting with page 23. So if you'd like to go to page 23 with us, you can go ahead and go there. It should say at the top of it. I know there's different editions. So what we have at the top of our page is 4 basic motivating factors in people behavior in the known universe. All right, we're going to start there. 4 basic motivating factors in people behavior in the known universe. So we're getting a little into psychology on this one today, right? We're going to be getting, thank you, Brother Lamar, we're going to be getting a little bit into psychology today. Hey, Sister Carla, how you doing? How you doing, Brother Dwayne? I'm how you doing, Rasta Queen? Wagwan? Alrighty. All right, how you doing, Sister Donna? Okay, so we're talking about what? 4 basic motivating factors in people behavior in the known universe. This is page 23 of the United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept by Neely Fuller Jr. Okay, we're going to talk about behavior, motivating factors. How you doing, Seamus? Right, motivating factors. Now, it's important that we catch motivating factors. Now, anybody recall what the word, just in case you don't recall this, and some of you have read a book called 21 Days of Motivation. That book describes motivation in the beginning. To motivate is an act, it's a verb, right? Motivation is where you've arrived at due to what motivated you, right? Motivation makes it a person, a place, or a thing, right? So I, as a person, once I'm motivated, right? If you say, what is your motivation? Well, you have to see, really, where did I get to? Maybe you can say, who's the person who motivated you? Maybe you can say, what's the place that motivated you, or what the place that motivates you to do what you do? What's the thing that motivates you? But you having motivation, or even being motivation, or ending up in a place of motivation, does not necessarily mean that you are motivating properly. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily motivated properly. In other words, right, we think that motivated means a thing, but motivated means your actions, right? So your motives are things that might be like your vision, your dream, what your goals are, etc. But when you're motivated, it means there's an act of something that's pushing you. And what is pushing you? Like, what is the thing that what is the act of you pushing towards something, right? That's technically more so what motivation means. Thank you, baby. How do you doing? My wife is on, the Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. So when we're talking about motivating today, what pushes somebody, then we have to go back to the system, right? The system that you're in that is oppressive. That we're once again, if this is part 5, so there's some things I'm not going to be able to go deep into. You can go back and look at our recordings in different platforms, whether it be the podcast or Facebook or YouTube, whatever the case might be. But if we're talking about something that's motivating, right? Like when you're motivating, when you're pushing, when you're going towards something, right? No matter what the motive is, when you're going towards a place of motivation, the place you're going to arrive at, if you are motivated, right? If you are being pushed, or if you're pushing yourself, if you're going somewhere, right? Then we have to ask yourself, what motivates persons in this system of racism, white supremacy, racism, ISM, right? System, race, competition, and then white supremacy. Those persons who always end up at the top. Recall, this book and even this teaching is not to be anti-white, right? That's why it's called racism, white supremacy, because somebody might not catch the concept that racism is a system of competition, a system you compete in. Technically, when you watch the 100, right? The 100-meter dash, and you watch it on, and you watch it at the Olympics, guess what? That is racism. It's just not racism, white supremacy. Now, you can say there's certain parts of it that have shown itself to be racism, white supremacy. We could have another conversation. But racism is a competition and a system of competition. That's all it means. That's why you have to be careful. What type of racism are we talking about? So a person's trying to get you and drag you into all these different conversations. When we're saying that racism affects the whole known world, we're talking about racism, white supremacy as far as a particular system. That means that certain persons who are considered to be white, remember, there's a difference. There are some persons who are called white, consider themselves to be white, and might even help with racism, white supremacy, but they are not supremacist, right? There are so-called white persons, there are so-called non-white persons, and then there are racist white supremacists. That's the conversation we're having. So a lot of persons hear racism, white supremacy, and you get lost in that thinking that I'm saying every white person that's ever existed is racist. Although we know what John Brown and others have done for us, right? Right? We know what a Tim Wise does and tries to do to help in society, right? We know what a Jane Elliott even does and has given her life to in society. The list goes on, right? There are many persons who have done things, even if it was just for their own financial gain. So what? They've still done things to be able to try and break through this prism of racism, white supremacy. Okay? So it's important that we catch that. So before somebody comes on here, I didn't say racism, because then if somebody says you're a reverse racist, we might be able to have a conversation. They might sneak something in, because we're talking about, well, racism, what's the system of race? Blah, blah, blah. What's the system, the competitive system, and who is it geared towards? I'm not talking about racism. I'm talking about racism, white supremacy. It's very important. Every time that you see that word racism, you have to think, what prism? What is the reality? Who says what is real within the system? How you doing, Sister Iska? Right? Racism, white supremacy is different than any other racism that exists or that has ever existed. Right? It's important. Right? Colorism can cause racism. You go down to Miami and you'll see racism set up, right? Within Cubano circles. Right? However, if you see the Ashkenazi who's really leading behind the Cubano circles, then guess what you'll see? Racism, white supremacy. Two different racisms. Might be a Judeo-racism, so to speak, right? Not a real Judeo, but you get what I'm saying, right? One might be different than the other, but they're both racism. But racism, white supremacy is still supreme even over the other form of racism. Matter of fact, the other form of racism fits within racism, white supremacy, so it still has to bow down to it. Right? There might be, for example, in basketball, you could say technically there's racism as far, I know somebody doesn't like me using these terms, but I'm just trying to get you to see the difference. Technically, there's a system where everybody's children, and by the way, I have no problem with nepotism, but you could say the system is set up to where certain children of NBA players, or NBA officials or NBA owners are going to continue to get opportunities first that others do not get, right? But within that system, there's racism, white supremacy. How many owners that look like us are in the NBA, right? You see, there's a difference where we're talking about racism or racism, white supremacy. So I want to make sure that I make that very clear. How you doing, Sister Jennifer? And if you're somebody who's not willing to give that difference, because that's me giving a lot of leeway, to be honest. That's me trying to be as nice as possible, right? So if somebody's trying to say, right, so we're not talking about just any form of racism. We're focusing on racism, white supremacy, the thing that taught you there's a such thing as a white person in the first place. Because there's no such thing as a white person. The color white doesn't even exist. The color white is actually absence of color. White means clear, right? Polar bear fur is clear. Snow is clear, right? White blood cells are clear. We can keep on going and going. So white can mean bright, it can mean clear, it can mean see-through, but white is not a color. White is not a people. Nobody thought of white people or a white nation until, you start really getting into the 1400s or so, and it still wasn't a developed thought process probably until your 1800s, right? So there's not even a such thing as a white person, right? An albino person is not white until you can see through them. They just are missing a whole lot of pigmentation and still might even have a lot of melanin, which is why you can have somebody who has supreme locks and be extremely so-called white. They're not white, right? They're just missing a lot of pigmentation, still have a lot of melanin. Anything that lives, any animal that lives at least, must have melanin, right? If it's a plant, it must have chlorophyll. If it is alive, it cannot be white, right? As far as if it needs melanin or not, right? Now, obviously, cells, different things like that, we're having a different conversation. And even within the cells, there are things that will be colored. Why? Because there still has to be some kind of melanin for survival. So even in that, you have to still see that if something becomes completely white or clear, right, then it becomes something that has no life. So I just want so we're just gonna be real about that. And if you have a problem with that, if you can't see past that, if you're only stuck on that, right? If you're only stuck on that, our pleasure. If you're only stuck on that and you can't see past that, and if you're looking for me to white bash or have assumed I'm going to white bash, you don't even realize what we're talking about. Okay? All right. So back to our book, the United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept by Neely Fuller Jr. We're going to start at page 23. All right, we already did our Bible pledge, by the way, if you're coming in. As I said, excuse me, today I'm going to need to get a little bit of citrus in my life. I would try my best not to be rude. Alrighty, so here we go. So the top starts, it says the 4 basic motivating factors in people behavior in the known universe. Number 1, racism, white supremacy. Thank you, Sister Jennifer. Appreciate that. Thank you. Number 1, racism, white supremacy. Yeah, number 1. That's where this book is focused, so we might as well just go right there. Number 1, racism, white supremacy. Number 2, reaction to racism, white supremacy. So number 1 thing is racism, white supremacy. Number 2, there's a reaction to it, whether you be into racism, white supremacy, or you're trying to escape it. Number 3, right? We'll talk about this all the time, being over-sexualized. Well, guess what number 3 is? Number 3 is sexual expression. Right? This is what drives a lot of persons in this system. And number 4, reaction to sexual expression. Wow. This is written now. This is I would say normally we say there's kingdom sense and common sense. I'll actually use the word this is being oversimplified, because it's trying to help you to get a very clear base mindset. Right? How you doing, Sister Sterling? Right? This is helping you to get a very clear base. This is going to help us to really catch this, right? So number 1, once again, is racism, white supremacy. Number 2 is reaction to racism, white supremacy. Number 3 is sexual expression. Number 4 is reaction to sexual expression. Right, here's the explanation from the book. Racism, white supremacy, racism in the form of white supremacy is the greatest motivating force by people that exist among the people of the known universe. Every person in the known universe is either practicing racism, white supremacy, or he or she is compelled at all times to react to those persons who are practicing it. That's number one and number two. So, in other words, racism, white supremacy is rampant. And basically, what you see in persons deal with all the time is either there's persons who are supporting it and living it, right? We talked about that before. You could be a black person supporting and living it. You can be a white person supporting and living it, whatever your terminology you want to use for yourself in adjectives, descriptive terms, right? You can be a so-called white person or a so-called black person using it for benefit, or using it against so-called black persons, using it to lift up somebody else, or you are reacting to it all the time, right? But whether you are all in, right, or you're basically, reacting to it, it still exists. Put it like this. There's a lot of persons that'll say, oh man, I can't believe that you're even talking about racism. You're the problem. If you weren't talking about it, it wouldn't exist. Well, guess what? You still fall in the category number two. You're reacting to something that you say is not real. Did you catch that? You're still reacting to something that you say is not real. It's like when persons say, Yah doesn't exist. The Most High doesn't exist. There is no higher power. There is no so-called God, et cetera, right? Well, you're busy reacting to what you say doesn't exist. So whether you even believe it exists or not, you still react to it. Right? If it wasn't a real thing, or if it didn't have real consequences, there would be no reaction to it. All right, be safe on the road. Right? You would not even be reacting to it if it wasn't real. I can't believe you're always talking about black and white and blah blah. First of all, I didn't make up these terms that you use. No, but you're talking about it. And how dare you, blah blah. Look, I'm the child of the oppressed. Whether you want to talk about the Jamaica in me, you want to talk about the Shwe in me, you want to talk about the Ashanti in me, you want to talk about the Hassala in me, you want to talk about Anakitawaya in me, and then the person says, I don't even know what that means. And it's like, yeah, you don't know what it means because to you, those persons should be eradicated, or you lived in a society to where you benefit from what those persons did, but you don't even care enough to know who they are. You don't even care enough about my people to know the difference between a Negro and a black person, a Negro and an African, a Negro and an African American. Or when they actually overlap or are one, right? Because racism, white supremacy tells you that it's not even worth you doing so. So when you're reacting, even in the way you're reacting, I don't even think you catch it. Right? For you to react in the manner that you're reacting, it's showing me clear as day that you really could care less about who I am because the system has told you that you're supposed to care less about who I am. That is a reaction, whether you deem it so or not. Now, you could say this is your participation in it in so-called ignorance, right? But if it's ignorance, remember, that means you have to ignore. That means you have to see the signs of it and be taught not to see the signs. This, my friends, is why it's so easy for persons to say, I don't see you, because I don't see color. Even eternal power and who Elohim is, so that they are without excuse. Yeah, I see you. How you doing, Pearl? You see what I'm saying? This is why they don't see color. It's easy to not see color when I'm not supposed to see you. I'm not supposed to see you because you're not viable enough. Could you imagine? Forgive me. Right? You said there has to be something to ignore in order for ignorance to occur. Come on, right? Could you imagine for our Jewish brethren, our Ashkenazi brethren, brethren in humanity, right? Could you imagine somebody telling them when they start talking about how they went through what they went through in the Holocaust and their parents went through it and how they had to go through being in the streets and the stuff like that and how persons look down upon them and all this and call them all these names and stuff and how they have pride in themselves because of who they are? Could you imagine what would happen if somebody said, man, whatever, I don't see gas chambers? What would happen if somebody said that? And by the way, I think it would be wild for somebody to say that, and I would be against somebody saying that. That's right. When you know the truth, it's hard to go back to a lie, right? That would be wild. You said you call white, you just don't know how to answer to it. Yeah. And by the way, you don't even have to answer to it. Or you can recognize in this system, that's what they're calling you. And if you know how to finesse the system, right? But you hear what I'm saying, right? Could you imagine if somebody was like, "Yeah, I don't." You keep talking about all this stuff or whatever, man. I don't see you. I don't see gas chambers, right? I don't even see. I've never been a Nazi before. Why should I even care? Why do I have to give back to you? Why should I visit the Holocaust Museum? Why should I even listen to you? If somebody said that, that would be outright offensive, wouldn't it? It is outright offensive. But for you, in the system of racism, white supremacy, you bet not say something like, "Oh, Black Lives Matter," and somebody says, "I don't see color." And your response is supposed to be, "Well, color doesn't matter." No, no, no. Why don't you see me? Right? Because it's foolishness. Hear what I'm saying. Watch the reaction to it. That's why it's important what we're catching in this code. How you doing, Sister Omika? See, watch the reaction to when we say like, look, if I say I'm black and I'm beautiful, or I'm black and I'm handsome, if I say my hair is handsome, right, because of the black and right, um, you know, really, somebody should think if I say my hair is awesome, somebody should say why, or somebody should think why is he saying that, right? If there's a woman who has long hair and it's because it's straight or it's red or whatever, if an Irish woman says my hair is awesome, what would you think? You start looking at, okay, you probably in your mind, she might even be redheaded, maybe blonde, right? It's probably long. It's considered to be long and flowing, stuff like that, right? Maybe it's braided, maybe it's not in some kind of Celtic traditional form, but when she says my hair is beautiful, you get to start saying why, and it's okay to describe these things. But if you dare say my hair is awesome, and then somebody says somebody's not supposed to think why, or they're supposed to say, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing that," or if they say I love your dreads or your dreadlocks, but the word dread actually means to be afraid of, or it means to even be wicked or evil. Now Samson had locks. Was that wicked or evil? So he didn't have dreads. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah, can I touch it and stuff like that? Yeah, it's but you're not right. If somebody else, if you were to see if you were to see a white person, you were to say, "Can I touch your hair?" Or not even ask. If you would just say, "Oh, your hair is nice," and you start going in, right? Are they allowed to pull back and say, "Why would you touch me?" But for you, it's not. Why? Because in racism, white supremacy, there's a difference in how not only how you conduct yourself, but there's supposed to be a difference in how you conduct others conduct themselves around you. You said another one is we all bleed red. you know, yeah, right. Or you got to cut me to see. Well, yeah, but even if somebody says we all bleed red, or even lines like we are there's a bar that I kind of like. We all black inside, like Folgers cans. Right, when you approach a man, we all black on the inside like Folgers cans. I kind of like that, but that doesn't mean that there's not a system that says that even though we're the same. And by the way, that's not the truth anyways. There's no such thing as equality. I don't care if you're two white persons, you're not the same on the inside. Just because you have the same organs doesn't mean you have the same cellular structure, right? But persons will say that. Oh yeah, we're all black on the inside. We all bleed red. We all, well, I mean, what does that have to do with anything, right? You could be O positive, you could be A, you could be B, you could be, right? Some people are RH negative. Some persons are O positive, O negative. Some persons have E1B1, right? E1B1A, right? For us, we know certain things that you would have. For us, we have L2, L3, L4. There are going to be a lot of different things that are going on. Just because you have a heart doesn't mean your heart runs the same. Matter of fact, if somebody ever gets a heart transplant, excuse me, or a liver transplant, or a kidney transplant, or whatever the case might be, if you transplant that stuff, guess what? Your body is going to fight against it. You actually have to be given something to turn off your immune system, because your immune system fights when somebody else, right? When somebody else's organ is put inside you. Because your immune system is trying to take care of you. And if anything that's outside of you is in there, tries to take over, then it tries to get rid of it. That's why even when a woman is pregnant, the body has to send a message to the brain, right? The body has to send a message to the brain, right? Saying, hey, this is not something we're going to take the life of. Because the blood that you carry, even though eventually you and the child will share the same DNA, but the blood that you carry is not your blood. So there's something being carried that's not you, but two becoming one. That means that there has to be a sacrifice given. Like when we're married to the Most High, you become a living sacrifice. Something's going to be impregnated inside of you. In order for you to carry it and manifest it, you're going to have to sacrifice, and you're going to have to allow your body to go through things for something that's not of you, at least not at first, but over time, it will become one with you to the point to where you won't be able to separate it by DNA. You catch that? So in all these things, we have to ensure that we're having proper conversation. And so there's a reaction to racism, white supremacy, as much as there is actions of racism, white supremacy. And you got to pay attention to both. You have to pay attention to both. All right. Next one. Next one up. All right. So every person in the known universe is either practicing racism, white supremacy, or he or she is compelled at all times to react to those persons who are practicing it. Both the practice of racism, white supremacy, and the reaction to it affects all people in all areas of activity, including the 9 we went through last time: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. All right, watch this. Sexual intercourse and or sexual play is the second greatest motivating force by people that exist among the people of the known universe. Right? Now for us, it's important to know that in our culture we know that sex is marriage, marriage is sex. But let's dig into this real quick. Right? So sexual intercourse and or sexual play is the second greatest motivating force by people that exist among the people of the known universe. Every person in the known universe is either engaging in acts of sexual intercourse and or sexual play, or he or she is at all times directly or indirectly reacting to those who are so engaged. Both acts of sexual intercourse and or sexual play are the reactions to such acts. Affects all people in all areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Summary. No other socio-material forces by people affect so many people in so many places, in so many areas of activity as the factors of race or racism, white supremacy, and sex. The way this system is set up is based off of haves and have-nots, and it's based off of who you are sexually attracted to. Tell me I'm lying. I didn't write the book, so tell me he's lying. Did you catch that? The way racism, white supremacy is set up, it is set up to where this whole system is driven by certain persons got to get to the top. Everybody else needs to know their place, whether you're on the bottom or somewhere in between. And then, who am I sexually attracted to? Right, and a lot of us catch ourselves like that. I've talked about my struggles with prom. You can fix some of the letters to make that make sense for you, right? But I've talked about some of my struggles with that before. if you said that was incorrect, you have to lie. Right. It's set up. That's the system. So in this system, for example, racism, white supremacy. This is in the government, by the way. Right? I've worked in the government. My wife's worked in the government. I know others that work in the government still in heavy, high positions. I've had family members, DOT, HUD, etc. Right? Military services. Worked in the White House. I've had friends and family that can verify this for you. You ready? If you are a woman, no matter how qualified you are, if you better at least dress the part, even if you're not going to be the part of a so-called, I don't want to slut shame. You put your adjective there, right? Because I don't see you as that, but I'm telling you how they see you. You better, if you can't be so-called attractive according to a racist white supremacist standard, then you better figure out a way to be so great at what you do that racism, white supremacy still has a slot for you somewhere. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me those who've had corporative jobs, right? Tell me I'm lying, right? Come on, sisters, right? Why do you have protective hairstyles? Not just because of this, that. Sometimes you have protective hairstyles because it protects your ability to get your job. And if I didn't say Shalom, Brother Charlie, please forgive me. Right? How you doing, Sister? Listen. Sometimes you have protective hairstyles just because you got to have a certain hairstyle to work or to have your job. Come on, can we have an honest conversation? Right, a lot of this protective hairstyle stuff that we've gone into, some of this stuff is not protect. This is when you got to realize, sisters, it's not just protective hairstyle to protect your hair, protect your scalp, right? And brothers, we got to realize this more because we don't live this life. Sometimes protective hairstyle is because it's easier to just go ahead and have something that's easy to put on real quick, do this, that, not damage your hair, not go through all this stuff. Remember when all the perms was off in our sisters? Literally, a lot of our sisters lost their memory. They lost a lot of function in their body. They lost even some of their curvature and stuff like that. They literally lost their minds. They lost their hair because they were frying it. Men were doing it too at one point, just not. It wasn't as well. Actually, at one point, men and women were supposed to be frying their hair if you had enough money, right? But that was something that was necessary to be able to get to a certain level. And so when we talk about this stuff, that's why I'm always very careful. So I think it was Sister Shirley might have asked one time. I can't remember if it was on Zoom or one of these live sessions. I think she asked about it specifically as far as what about wigs and stuff like that. Is it righteous to wear it? And I'm always very careful. I was like, yeah, okay, if you're asking me, the Bible says, boom, boom, boom. That being said, though, in the land of our captivity, especially if you're doing stuff for your family, I get it, right? I get it. Like, you're not just going to get blah, blah without making sure this and this and this is together, right? And how you doing, Sister Shirley? Sorry, right? But this, what I'm saying? You're not going to get that unless this, right? Like, there's certain things you're not going to get if you're a man and you walking in with this. Even if you're more qualified than the man in the three-piece suit. Because racism, white supremacy says what is of your culture is not as important. And by the way, can we have an honest dialogue in this? To a certain degree, I'm not even mad at it. Did you catch that? Can I be honest? To a certain degree, I'm not mad at it because if others gentrify, which basically is coming, taking over your stuff and making sure that it's there, but if you live somewhere, it should look like you. So I'm just being honest. I'm not mad at it, right? I'm not mad at it that somebody says, if you're going to work for us, you should look like us. The problem is that when persons are being grafted into this or are supposedly becoming grafted into this, and they start saying, okay, when we come in, you're going to look like what we say. No. Who shall believe our report? Yehoshua is the way, the truth, and the life. He said he did not come to destroy the law or the prophets. He came not to destroy, but that it might be fulfilled, that he might actually do what it is that the prophets said by the word, because you guys are going to have the word show up in front of you. Right? He didn't say, right, when he was asked by the woman at the well, a Samaritan woman, a woman who did not keep up with the code, with the culture. She knew some of it, but did not know all of it, and it had been so messed up and pervasive, and there were so many other things that were pervasive in there that, it started to literally, go away and stray way far away from what the truth was. And the woman at the well asked Yehoshua, she says, well, should we, your fathers worship this and our fathers say worship like this. What should we do? And he doesn't start off by saying, Yah's the spirit, they that worship him should worship him in spirit and truth. We skip over a part. First thing that he says, he unapologetically, by the way, he doesn't really explain it. He just says, yo, real talk, we know what we worship. Right? He didn't give her a long spiel. No, he said, look, we know what we worship. If you know that I'm a prophet and you know that what I'm saying is true, I'm here to tell you that we, Yehoshua, Israel, we know what we worship. Do you hear what, right? He didn't sugarcoat it. Look, I know you don't know what it is. You're asking me, you finally realize I'm at least a prophet. Let me hook you up with some knowledge real quick. But first things first, I need you to know, we know what we worship. Wow, we were raised in it. Paul was asked a question about it. He says in Romans chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, he says, is there an advantage to being circumcised, being lawful? Is there an advantage to being Judah, right, being Israel? He says much. He didn't say no. He said much in every way, in any way you could think of, right? In every way there is an advantage. He said because we had the law, we had the prophets with us. We were raised in this. So I have a huge advantage over you, right? My son, glory be to Yah, my son should have a huge advantage over a bunch of other children, not because I'm the best, blah, blah, but because of what I do every day, all day. There should be things that he doesn't come across. There should be things that he will see that others don't see. There should be things he's sheltered from. There should be things he's exposed to that other children don't have the opportunity to, because his father, if his father is really about what he says, his father is on another level in certain things, not because I'm better, but because I've stood on the shoulders of giants that came before me. And I stand on the platform that Yah says we can all stand on. And since that's what I stand on all the time, I should be able to give him the same vantage point that his father has. There's not any shade towards anybody else. It's because so when he gets to a certain age, when he gets to 15 and he's about to go through 16, his bar mitzvah, or what you call his bar mitzvah, and being of lawful age, to where he can start getting some serious training, get ready to start making this money on his own property, or at least he won't be able to own it, but you get what I'm saying? He'll have some stuff that he'll be accountable for and stuff like that. When he gets to that level, it should be he should be different. He should be built different. Literally built by the hands of Yah, built by his father, built by his mother, built by the community. He should be on some different stuff because he was raised in it. So I'm not mad when somebody else has another standard. Well, we should get more frustrated. And how you doing, Sister Michelle, if I didn't say so already? And I think Miss Q was on too. What we should be more frustrated about is how in the world is it that we have this advantage and we don't use it? Slow. How you doing, Minister Moselle? How you doing, Sister Angela? How you doing, Granny and Axe? All right, thank you for the love. So I'm not mad at when somebody else, but going back to this, right? If you were talking about, we don't like to have this conversation, but sex is so pervasive. Matter of fact, can I be honest with you? What persons are attracted to, it affects what's in your pulpit. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, sorry. It affects what's in your pulpit. It affects what is in your pulpit. Sorry. Right? If you don't believe me, right? There are places to where if you're gonna preach as a woman, then who you preaching under better think that you fine. Oh, I know. We're not supposed to be giving the game. Real talk, right? Ain't that a word? Come on, Minister. Now you better be fine, or you better be wearing what the pastor says is supposed to be worn. And to a certain degree, that one's not a bad thing per se, right? As long as he's saying what the word of Yah says as far as modesty, right? But you better be fine. Or in some places, shoot. Why is it that you see people that are preaching and the brothers are preaching and they ain't necessarily masculine? Because the pastor ain't necessarily attracted to what's masculine. I'm talking about male or female, because you know there's some sisters out there that you're not attracted to masculine men either. Then talking trash. You know, you was raised in churches and stuff, and you're, come on, come on, we gotta be honest. We can't just go past this thing in the code. Let's be honest. So look, sisters, some of y'all was raised and you sung in the choir and you did this stuff or whatever, and the minister of music was all over the place with his masculinity. And so you was raised with some wild stuff, and you thought it was normal. And so now when you looking for your husband, and so we hear these stories of down low persons and stuff like that, but that's if we're gonna be honest, that's known in the church. Look, I was a minister of music quite a few different places on the planet. And whenever I was around our folk, persons were surprised that I wasn't whatever. They be looking for it. And then I've had persons approach me like, oh, you not? They come to find out there were guys in the choir. I didn't know at first. There were guys in the choir apparently attracted to me, or just because I'm ministering music, right? There's stuff like that. By the way, I know even when I was playing music, I played music, I learned real fast. I played music and there be sisters, and I thought at the time I was ugly as I don't know what. Now I love the way I look. Back then I had no self-confidence in that. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be playing this and that or whatever, and all that stuff, you be seeing sisters approach. It's very sexualized. It's very sexualized. I'm just trying to tell you, it's hypersexualized. And we forget that the church, the way the church is run by the whole overseer mindset. It's run by the whole racism, white supremacy. It's run by the whole you got to wear white gloves and put a hand behind your back. We talked about this already in this series, right? It's run by the put a finger in your ear so that master knows where you're going. It's run right by you having the big old chair for the overseer to come through at the end, and then the pastor that they put in place to give you a partial word that's from a slave Bible to where persons don't even know where it's coming from. It's run by that. That also means if it's running that same system, then that means the same overseer that would take your woman and have his way with her while telling the pastor what he could and couldn't do and running around and having their babies running around. Where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that comes from? You forgot that part. We don't want to talk about that part. But the way that you have church service is based off of racism, white supremacy. It's based off of when you were a chattel slave. So I know, I get it. I know we want to act like, oh no, everything we do is completely about what Yah wants. But no, there's a lot of stuff that you do where Yah had nothing to do with it. And somebody told you were nothing. And they were mistreating your sisters. And they were mistreating your men. So your men were getting stuff, buck breaking, right? Your men were getting stuff done to them. And they were supposed to be your leaders. And now you're trying to figure out why are all your leaders having stuff done to them or doing stuff to other children. That's because that was a normalcy in racism, white supremacy, all over the planet, right? If you ever look, I don't know if we're going where we're going. I know there's a lot of persons trying to make a beeline to Africa. I know a few of y'all want to try to do an African trip. We're going to put somebody in. I told you, long as somebody can be in charge, but we're going to try to make it work, right? I don't know where we're going, but if we go, I know there's probably more persons that want to go to Ghana first, because we can go different places different years, right? We don't have to just make it one place. But if we do make that trip work this year or next year or whenever, not this year, sorry, 2025 or 2026 or whenever, if we make that trip and if we do go to West Africa, we're going to go, I'm just telling you, like I'm the one thing as pastor, I'm gonna step and say we're going to do no matter what, we are going to go to Elmina Castle. We can go to multiple, but Elmina has definitely got to be on our list, right? And one thing you'll see there that will really show you what I'm talking about, because persons think I'm making this up, and a lot of us only have a prism through what happened right down your street or in your alley or in your state. When you go there, you will see amongst all the other stuff, it's gonna mess you up. I'm just telling you, when we go there, be ready to cry, be ready to be angry, right? I might have to ask them if we can go on our own tour, because some of y'all knowing us, we might try to tear that place up, right? So just to let you know, we're gonna probably roll together, or I'm gonna have to see if we can get a special thing just for us, right? Because some of the persons that work there, they're very nonchalant about it, and they're gonna say stuff in a way that's gonna be very offensive towards you. Just saying, just keeping it a buck, right? But that being said, when we go over, if we get a chance to, we're gonna go, or when we go over, you're going to see right above where the men are on the bottom, right, where they try to do buck breaking there. The sisters, they did their stuff to them on the opposite side, right, and they were easier to deal with just because they were more frail, more fragile, right? And so they did things that if a sister got on the line, they literally fried them up in front of everybody. They attached them to a cannonball, and let the sun come down on them on the concrete. The other sisters would watch it, and they'd have to make a decision about what they wanted to happen to them, right? But the men were underneath, and there's all this crazy stuff is happening all over the place. Guess what's up top? Guess what's overlooking all the other stuff that's going on in Amina Castle? The point of no return, where once you left there, you were never supposed to come back. Your family was never supposed to come back. All this stuff, as persons are being sold into chattel slavery, guess what's up above, looking over everything? Come on. Yep, come on, Sister Angela, you know. It's a church. And you'll find scriptures that you would swear you would never think anybody would put above stuff like that. How you doing, James 1:26-27? you'll see there's a church above, and it overlooks down on everything. And all that foolishness and all that craziness, and men being thrown into solitary confinement basically for the rest of their life, and then being starved to death, and sisters crying as they're being drugged up to the governor's chambers, and all these persons that are being put into this, and all this stuff that's going on, the overseers having it, and persons are having church service right above. Mm. Mm. Right? So I know as much as we want to act like, right, the cirque, right? So I know as much as we want to act like we're separated from this, and only what y'all wants is what survives in the church. No, the church, the black church even, is highly affected around the world by this type of mindset. That's right, and use God to justify it, right? I'm just trying to tell you, right? So I'm here. And by the way, there's a peculiar thing that happens. That's why I said we might need to have our own group, because Elder Almond and I were ticked off. Elder Almond was ready to, I don't know if she was ready to go blow for blow, but she was having to talk to some person. I was starting to have to get on some persons too, because there was a couple, right? The brother, I forget what country they're from, but it's a brother, but he's mixed, and tries to live not, he passes basically, but we know what time it was when we saw him. And he has a so-called white wife. I'm not trying to talk bad about it, just hear the context. I hope you get in the series. We're talking about stuff through a prism, right? Of racism, white supremacy. And so where he comes from, he's not really supposed to be black like that. They got money, obviously, they're traveling, they got children together. And so as they're going there, he's quiet the whole time. I mean, every time the tour guide says something, the mother of the children, his wife, keeps stepping up, and she's like, yeah, but that's not our fault, right? Like literally asking questions like that, like, it was black folk that sold other black folk though, right? So this happened because of them. She kept asking that over and over again. Finally, Elder Ahmed had like enough, and she started talking back at it, and I had enough too, so we started talking to him, whatever. And we even saw him a couple places after that later on. They were from Belgium, thank you, right? And he where he isn't even considered to be much, but he's trying to fit in. He not blackity black, but in Belgium, you know, Belgium is where Leopold is from, right? So if you know what Leopold's on, he took way more lives than what happened with Germany. Everybody acts like that didn't happen. So if you go to Belgium, right, only been there for a day, that was probably too much, to be honest with you, right? I'm not really trying to go back. Saw quite a few sites, walked through the streets a little bit, was mistreated. I even did some videos back in the day. They were on the old channel though. But yeah, like Belgium is a whole nother monster. That being said, yeah, that's where they came from. Thank you, babe. I couldn't recall where it was from, and they came through and they were doing all this stuff, and everything was, oh well, black, you guys, so, and it was black persons that did, right, and you guys blah blah. And the tour guide, because he's from a branch, a nation to where they look down upon some of our nations, they were like, oh no, yeah, I'm not talking about Ghana. I'm talking about the so-called, what y'all call tribes. So you'll see a lot of racism, white supremacy in there, a lot of colorism, a lot of so-called tribalism, a lot of plantation, whose plantation is better, a lot of et cetera, et cetera. You'll see a lot of that stuff there, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic. And the stuff that's going on, nobody wants to really deal with the fact that you have church services going on with racism, white supremacy. So that means that persons being sexualized, persons being raped, persons being groomed. This happens during service, right? Let's not act like in Roman Catholicism and even a lot of Protestantism that's not something that goes on, whether it be white on white or white on black. So now you bring the same thing. You said, how could she not even see the pain? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's a system that she's from, especially in Belgium, racism, white supremacy. She's not supposed to think like that. In Belgium, they still sell N-word heads and stuff like that, and N-word fingers, N-word hands, because in Belgium they would chop off hands and stuff like that. They wear them as charms. Like I'm wearing these. They you see them with fingers and toes and stuff like that, and hands. Not just of adults, but of children. So for them, they still eat stuff and chocolate, and they now they say it's just full chocolate, but that was something that would have been part of where they come from. So if you go to their stores, when I walk through the streets, you see some of that on the store. How you doing, Sister Keita? Hopefully you're still healing well. Yeah. Don't forget, especially those of you when we did the last watch party. Which, by the way, I got to get with Sister Tay and Bruda. I'm sorry, we still haven't had our meeting. But when we did our last watch party of the series we were watching for a really, really long time, right? It took us that long to watch because it was so much in each episode. It was only 3 episodes, but they were all long. Don't forget that, you have whole churches that are made out of the bones of Negroes. Right? Don't forget. Never forget. Like, literally, you can go to churches in Europe right now, multiple places in Europe, right? Multiple countries in Europe, and you can see churches that are built out of the bones of your people. That's not if you don't believe me, look it up. Google it real quick and come back. Right? I'm not making it up. Right? If you don't believe me, just Google it real quick. Just look up churches made out of bones and then see what you see and then come back. How you doing, Sister Taylor? Right? Because there might be somebody thinks I'm making that up. And a lot of those churches, they're made out of the bones of your people. It's in there. That's in Mexico too. Believe it or not, it's in the United States of America too, but that's low key. You ain't really supposed to talk about that. Because we freed the slaves. Or y'all did. I'm not an American citizen no more. I ain't doing Auntie Mary. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's truth. Salah. So I'm just saying. I see you, Sister Sabrina. So I'm just saying. That's why when we say Israel, whether you're white or black, you got to be grafted in and you got to be part of the tree. Because if you're saying you want to come out the system, you got to come out all the way. I don't care what your color is. There's a lot of so-called Negroes, so-called Hebrews, so-called black persons who say that they're anti the system, but they still connected to the point to where they can't be released. As a matter of fact, I'm going to add a little extra to what, and we got to get back to the book, but I'm going to add a little bit extra because he basically said if you're dealing with 4 things in the known universe that drive persons, it's going to be racism, white supremacy, reaction to racism, white supremacy, sexual expression, reaction to sexual expression. I'd like to even give you one more, right? Or basically put it like this, that basically there's going to be persons who are part of the system and there's going to be persons who are not part of the system. And there's going to be persons that react to you being part of the system, or persons are going to react to you not being part of the system. Henceforth and forevermore. Right? This is why when you tell somebody in your family, watch this. I know you don't want to hear this part, and we're not really going to go over this with the 12 Myths of Christmas, especially with the babies watching or being part of what we're doing. I won't dig deep into that because I'm not sure where everybody is on this with their babies. But real talk, when it comes to racism and white supremacy, do you not know Christmas is racism and white supremacy? You don't have a Black Pete if there's no racism and white supremacy. Right? You don't have St. Nicholas having to be white if there's not racism and white supremacy. Because, by the way, there's many Nicholases that they put together to try and make up this person you know as St. Nicholas. And a couple of them are black. But you would never know that. You wouldn't know that they're actually a whole bunch of persons made up. Racism and white supremacy, racism and white supremacy, you wouldn't think of some persons get gifts and some persons don't. Or, you know what? I don't want to go too deep in that. I feel like I'm just going to put that there. I think you guys get the picture, right? Look at Christmas, where it is, what it looks like, who it's supposed to be. Look at who is supposed to be uplifted and stuff. It's not everybody's culture. It's not everybody's culture, right? That's right. Some of us fighting for a black Santa and all that stuff. It's not everybody's culture. It's not our culture. And so when you say you're going to stay away from something, somebody says, well, why aren't you into our system? Why aren't you going to spend money where we say spend it? That's why the third video we watched yesterday, we watched videos 3 and 4. If you were with us, that third video, it says, hey, some of y'all think about money more than you think about Christ. So maybe you should get out of it because of the myth. Because the myth that you guys think this is about goodwill towards all men is about getting in your pockets. Why not save your money and make sure that you can invest it into something? Get some land, do something outstanding with it. You said, side note, They don't have a problem with a black Santa, but fight you if you paint a black Jesus. I think many of them have a problem with a black Santa too. But I get what you're saying. They have more of a problem with that, which is concerning to say the least, right? So I'm just saying, like, you have to realize even racism, white supremacy says where are your dollars going, and your dollar's supposed to go to white Santa or white Jesus, or even if it's Xmas is supposed to be Macaulay Culkin, right? I know some of y'all are into, hey ho, the mistletoe, I'm going to get to know you better, right? And all that. Where's that money going, right? That all I want for Christmas is you. Where's that money going? Is that going to you? Is that going to your community? No, of course not. So, right, matter of fact, remember this? When everything went down September 11th, you guys remember everything went down September 11th? If you guys recall, by basically the end of September, and definitely by the time you got to October, November, they were already trying to make sure that everybody recognized that in order for the country to survive, you needed to go and celebrate Christmas. Y'all remember that? So the dog answered. Anybody recall that? I'm old enough to remember that. You old enough to remember that? I was in the military at the time, so I remember that. Y'all remember that? How you doing, Pastor? Y'all remember that it was such a big deal that your dollars better go into racism, white supremacy. That they were like, yo, hey, I know that terrorism's there. I know there's threats. I know, but they said this is what they said. No lie, no cap. Anybody, if I'm capping, somebody call me out. All right, if I'm lying, somebody call me out. Y'all recall this? They said straight up, yo, the thing that the terrorists need to see more than anything else is that we're doing Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and we're buying up everything at the malls. Y'all remember that? Am I the only person? Am I crazy? I recall that. I recall that. Like, I recall vividly and being like, what? I was livid when I heard that. Like, the best thing we could do. That's what they said. Bush came out and was preaching it from his pulpit. Everybody was preaching it. Preachers were preaching it from their pulpit. The best thing that we could do to show the world that we're united. The best thing we could do to show ourselves. The best thing we could do. Don't be black. Don't be white. Now, they didn't mind you being anti-Muslim and anti, brownish, olivish color, right? But they were like, don't be black, don't be white. Everybody be an American and go and focus and make sure that your dollars are in the store. That's the best way you could fight the enemy. That's what they told you. That's what they told you, right? And in your mind, you thought that was, oh yeah, we're gonna go on the street. No, no, where's those dollars going? We still got to fund racism, white supremacy. You remember that, babe? Yeah, y'all remember? Yeah, that was a thing, and a lot of us just went for the okie doke. Everybody was like, well, maybe there are persons, and there were persons who were doing many blowing up. I know they kept it low, but go back low key. I know this is low key. They did this, but go back and research. There were persons that were doing mini bomb stuff here and there, and persons who were always threatening and stuff, and persons were afraid to go outside. They said, nope, go outside, even though this is being threatened. Go ahead and do those things. We need to make sure that your money is where we need it to be, the same place. It's just like Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. And a lot of y'all should have made sure you were if you so-called giving to black persons, you should. Now, if you look at what Black Lives Matter stands for, it stands for LGBTQ+. Nobody want to talk about that. But that stuff never went to Black Lives. Right? They'll bring out a few black persons who made some money off of it. And they made money off their own people, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But let's be honest, like, that wasn't for you. Right? That wasn't for you. Yeah, I'm gonna say, okay, look, I'm sorry, what'd you say, babe? Yeah, that's exactly what they said. Money was the American way. Okay, I'm gonna say something. Be mad at me all you want. If some of y'all aren't gonna agree, this is fine. We don't have to touch and agree on this. I'm gonna just voice something, let it get in your mind. I'm planting a seed, right? If it grows, if it doesn't, cool, whatever. All right, look, real talk, real talk. Um, if you are anti-racism, white supremacy, it shouldn't have even mattered if persons were destroying a Target or a Walmart. That's harsh. I get it. But I'm just being honest. I'm not saying go out there and do it. I'm not saying break the law. I'm saying one of the tricks of the enemy, because you forget that they on the left and the right, right? Like, let's just be honest, on the left or the right. Like, I believe Black Lives Matter. I never supported the that community. I never joined the organization. I never marched. But yeah, I know that my life matters, right? But hear what I'm saying. Who cares if a target got messed up? If you're saying the system needs to go away, then don't defend the system. I'm just can we just have honest dialogue? Like, I know this is gonna get me in trouble somewhere. Somebody gonna record this and somebody gonna use this against me, whatever, right? But I'm just being honest, right? I got y'all as my witness what the context is. If you, because I didn't do it, but if you were somebody that was out there, right, or you were supporting Black Lives Matter organization, because I didn't march, right? I supported their right to march, but I didn't march, so I'm fine where I am, right? I've always said the same thing, kingdom first. But if you believe that this stuff, now I get the reason why they were like, well, because they'll try and blame us, and they'll try to say, look, black folk, they blamed you for marching. They said that you were wrong for going outside and marching. Did you not catch this? They blame you because you're black, not because the store. Right? Minister Malcolm X, he once taught this and taught this very well. He said they don't hang you because you're a Methodist. They hang you because you're black. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist. They hang you because you're black. They don't hang you because you're a Muslim. They hang you because you're black. They don't hang you because you're Buddhist. They hang you because you're black. That's right. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has a famous sermon. It's called If I Had Sneezed. I believe that's the title of it. Something close to that. Right? They got insurance anyways, right? But you hear what I'm saying? And the sermon was called If I Had Sneezed, I believe. I'm pretty close to whatever the title was. It's one of my favorites. And he talks about in the sermon to where he was struck, right? He was struck, and basically they were able to have him alive, but they told him, he was praying, and he was asking for Yah's protection, because had he sneezed, they said that he would lose his life. He was praying that he wouldn't sneeze, or else he wouldn't be able to come back and preach. He wouldn't be able to come back and lead. He wouldn't be able to live. He wouldn't be able to see his babies. He wouldn't be able to see his wife. So he had a famous sermon. And guess how he got in that predicament? Was because he was marching for peace and said, let's not come against them. And they still attacked him. Did you guys not watch, by the way, in 2020, 2021 even, when police officers were literally putting bricks together? They were stacking the bricks on top of each other, making sure they were loose so that persons could get them. And then they would direct all the traffic. They would put up bridges and everything, and they would direct all of the persons who were marching. They would force them into these places, and it was either pick up a brick and defend yourself, or it was go down. Persons filmed this stuff. They filmed the police officers putting the bricks together. They filmed the persons being forced into it. They filmed the police officers staying back a certain amount until somebody threw something, and then they showed you guys on the news how they were saying that persons were just coming with bricks. This is not right. So for you to go, oh well, we got to be careful about Target or about Walmart or about Sam's Club or about this one, that one, be careful. We got to stop any of these persons who are trying to go ahead and say we're the ones breaking down the stores. They're going to blame you anyways. It's set up for that. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's set up for that. So you got to recognize this stuff. This is a system set up for this. Right? Back to the sexual perversion thing real quick, and then I'm going to go ahead and leave this alone. Right? Do you not realize that when we're talking bad about Sexy Red, somebody set her up for that? Somebody told her, if you're going to rap, you should only rap about this. Somebody who makes way more money than her and makes decisions and owns hip hop. I know you think hip hop is a black thing, but stop calling stuff black stuff if you don't own it. Right? If Drake is trying to sue, right, Lucian, if Jimmy Iovine could take down 50 Cent, y'all remember how popular 50 Cent was? You can find me at the club. You remember the bangers 50 Cent put out, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he ran into Kanye, and after that, he was pretty much done? That's because he spoke against who owns hip hop. So hip hop is black influenced, but it's not black owned. It's like when you say you got a black neighborhood. Does everybody in your neighborhood own? Because if not, it's not a black neighborhood. Are your businesses black owned? If not, it's not a black neighborhood. There's more Dollar Trees in your neighborhood than black owned businesses. And then when we go, it's interesting. Like when we go, when my family and I travel, I love to find black businesses and support, even if it's a really, really small business, right? Because a lot of us, we go places to where they're not black owned, and we're just like, oh, I'm on vacation, blah blah. No, like we don't even believe in that. But once again, it's a reaction. We don't even look at it as what the book is telling us, a reaction to racism, white supremacy, or we're simply lifting it up. We don't think about it that way. Amen, Brother Thomas. I see you, right? Like, we don't think about it that way. Racism, white supremacy, right? Like, when we get to travel some more, you guys will see it when we actually have more time on some of the land and stuff like that. I promise you, like, I'm going to make sure I'm safe, but I'm usually trying to figure out where the locals at. That's really where I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to usually find the locals. I want to hear from them. I want to learn. I want to talk back and forth, and then I want to leave a nice little tip. That's right. I want to sow where I want to grow. Come on. Right? Right? Okay. All right. Let's go back to the book. Let's go back to the book. The United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept. All right. Let's go back. Praise y'all. All right. We're gonna. Hold on 1 second. I'll tell you the page number in a second. I told you I'm using the one that's got all the advertisements too. Okay, we're gonna go down to page 24. We're gonna start it where it says 5 major political isms in thought. Now remember, ism really is a system, but he's gonna break it down a little different than what we do. All right. So there's gonna be 5 isms. How you doing, Lady GG? Lady GGPH. Hopefully I said that right. Thanks for being part of the community. All right. 5 major political isms in the thought, speech, and/or action of all people in the known universe. Number 1, racism. Racism, white supremacy. That's what we're talking about mainly, right? One or more white persons using deceit, direct violence, and/or the threat of violence to promote falsehood, non-justice, and/or incorrectness against non-white people on the basis of color, in order to satisfy white people in one or more areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and/or war. I think that makes sense on its own. Let's go to number 2. Me-ism. M-E-ism. Me-ism. A system based off of me. All right, watch this. So this is something that nobody wants to talk about, but this is me-ism. If I'm being racist, why would somebody make up a system to benefit themselves? Because they're about themselves. All right, me-ism. Me-ism. Any one person thinking, speaking, and or acting to satisfy him or herself with little or no concern for others in one or more areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and or war. Wow. So one of the things we don't talk about with racism is that racism, white supremacy comes with meism, as is any racism. Right? Any kind of system is going to deal with you. But is it a selfish or a self-centered system? Because even to be selfish is okay. Right? It's selfish of me to take care of myself when I'm sick. But I need to be selfish like that sometimes. Right? It's selfish. But self-centered, that's when we start having a problem that might lead to narcissistic tendencies, and let alone narcissism. You setting up a system that causes you. And by the way, is anybody we talked about this actually on the cruise, I think, like on one of the times we were eating. You have to be careful with this term narcissism. A narcissist is one who literally is so enveloped with themselves even, they will fall in, right? They will fall into themselves. They will literally, like, if you know about how the story of the narcissist ends, right? The character narcissist ends, right? That we get this term narcissism from. He actually ends up loving himself so much that he can't stop looking at his reflection in the water, and he ends up drowning because he can't stop looking at himself. Right? That's actually, how it ends. You said you don't want to be on there. You've been under a thumb of a narcissist not too long. Yeah. So meism is not necessarily saying narcissism, but a narcissist is actually one. The way I tried to explain it was something along the lines of, if you see somebody who's a narcissist and you break up with them, that's the type of person that's dangerous, because they will not. They unless they have said you are no longer part of their universe, you are still part of their universe, and they are the center of the universe. Right? If you believe in a sun-centric solar system, right? Then you have to. Then what you're saying is that basically, you are the sun, so to speak, and anything that's around you, it revolves around you. And unless you say Pluto is not part of you and you kick Pluto to the curb, unless you say it, Pluto's still part of you, and if Pluto tries to get away from you, you'll come looking for Pluto, right? And that's how a lot of persons think of their relationships if they're actual narcissists, right? Somebody can be selfish and self-centered and still not be a narcissist. So when we say meism, we're not quite at the level of narcissism, but we're talking about somebody setting up a system, and there are some narcissistic tendencies, but it's really more what he's saying, meism. Meism is more so, hey, I'm setting up a system that's for me, with little or no regard to anybody else. A narcissist actually knows how it affects others, because he needs to be in control of everything. She needs to be in control of everything. Did you catch the difference? Yeah, those can become stalkers. Not necessarily all stalkers, but they can become stalkers, right? But meism is somebody saying, I really don't care how this really affects anybody. The system I'm setting up is for me and me only, right? I would hope and pray. That's why we're trying to create a hashtag a safe place. I would hope and pray that you've been at SOC long enough to see that this is not set up to be a meism. If it was, I don't really care about trying to get land or trying to pay your bills. Like, I could be like a lot of and by the way, I could do some so-called good. I could do so-called good and still do something in meism. I could give you the same messages and do this and do that. I don't have to talk to anybody on the phone, right? I don't have to care if what I'm saying offends you at all. I don't have to worry about if they take this down or whatever. If they take it down, I'll just start something else up, and who cares if y'all can find it, right? That's meism. So this is not a meism, but there are persons who have so-called ministries that are into meism. This is what I want. This is what my mama taught me. This is what blah, blah. I don't care if anybody else likes it, right? There's meism. Dr. Umar Johnson, he tells you the truth, but let's be honest. There is some meism. I wouldn't say all the way, but Dr. Umar Johnson, he'll tell you the truth, but there's some meism. I don't care if it affects you. I don't care if you like what I say. I don't care if I look conceited. I don't care when you get to a place where you're going to not really be able to lead with so much, because you've already squashed what it is, that somebody can get from you. You see? So I'm not here to say that, I just want to make it clear though. When we talk about meism is not narcissism, right? Narcissism is a whole different realm. The narcissist controls everything. That's why I'm trying to give up control and stuff, because if I'm not careful, I can become a narcissist. Everything has to come through me. Nothing can be done without me. Nobody can make a move without me. You better tell me what you're preaching about. You better, like that can become narcissism over time, even if you don't mean for it to be, and you can ultimately take your own life with it just being too busy, right? So you have to be careful. This is where you got to be careful. All right. Let's go to the next one real quick. So number 2 was meism. Number 1 was racism. Number 2 was meism. So we got 3 more. Okay, number 3 is twoism. Twoism. T-W-O-ism. Twoism. How you doing, Rocklock? Twoism. What is twoism? Twoism. Any two people thinking, speaking, and or acting to satisfy each other Mm. With little or no concern for others in one or more areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and or war. Wow. So racism, problematic. Meism, one person doing everything for the benefit of me, for themselves, problem. But then guess what else is problematic, beloved? Twoism. So you got to be careful, even in who you choose to go into partnership with, in business, etc., in your love life, etc. You know, you can have a system to where two persons can come together and not worry about how it affects anybody else either. Hmm. Are you catching that? Twoism. TWOISM. Two parties coming together and not really concerned how what they're doing affects others. Right? That's how you can have parents. You can have parents that get along fine. Anybody ever been raised by parents that get along fine and their children get messed up? Or you have, right, they work together really well, but they don't work for their children. This actually exists. I know somebody's like, I ain't heard that one before. Yeah, there's parents who are nice, who don't mean any wrong, they're not trying to harm anybody, but they come together and what they want. That's all it is to it. Right? It's a system that they set up. It's not to bow to be alone, law witnesses. We're interdependent. Yeah. So two can become one, and then they're becoming one. It can mess everybody else up. No concern for how it works for anybody else. Right? Be careful. Right? We don't catch these things. So this is one that was interesting when I read it. Twoism. There can be two persons. See, watch this. In your mind, a lot of persons deal with this, psychologically speaking, right? I know we got some doctors in the house, so they can correct me if I'm wrong. Psychologically speaking, you can have two persons that, or somebody who says, "Man, you know what? I'm a great person because so and so agrees with me," right? Or a small amount of persons agree with you. Get along with this person, so in your mind, shoot, you can't be all that bad a person. You get along with this person. So how could everybody else have a problem with what I'm doing? This person is cool with everything I say or do. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yep, you can. That happens quite often, right? Misery loves company. You can find somebody just as miserable as you, and in your mind, you'll excuse your misery that you expound upon and and use to extol the other one in their misery. You use it as an excuse to keep on doing miserable things and making other person's lives miserable. Because when you get with this one person, hey, you and them, they cool. So since you cool with this one person, and you'll excuse miserable behavior. Uh-oh. Thank y'all for the love, right? Thank you. Right? You'll excuse it because hey, this person agrees with me when I say this. When I talk bad about this person, when I say he ain't nothing, when I say she ain't nothing, when I say women ain't this, when I say men ain't this, hey, my sisters, they cool when I say men ain't blah, blah. That's miserable behavior. Just because somebody's is agreeing with you on it doesn't mean that should be systemic for us. And you should not systematically put that in place. Be careful with that twoism, right? Just because you say that all white people are terrible, or terribly awful human beings, or terribly disgusting human beings, and then somebody else comes and says, yeah, all white people are terribly disgusting human beings. That's twoism. Doesn't mean that you're right or righteous. But you'll set up a system, a really small one, but a system that protects you and says, hey, I can get it. Hey, this person helps me get away with it. This person helps me get away with it. So hey, since they go ahead and agree with me, this person agreed with me. Right? That twoism is something else. Now imagine it when it comes to racism. Right? You said, yeah, there is no respect of persons with Elohim. Well, come on, right? Right? I see you, Romans 2:11. So that twoism is something else. right? Now imagine in racism, somebody says, man, I'm tired of all these persons saying that racism exists. When's the last time that we ever repressed anything, anybody? Yeah, I've never really had any power. Matter of fact, I've been mistreated by the system. I've been mistreated. I didn't get my food stamps either. I had to grow. I had to go to college. Nobody did that. Nobody. That's twoism. TWOISM. That's twoism. You created a system. You found somebody that agrees with you, and so even though there's a whole bunch of evidence to the contrary, and watch this, there's a lot of persons who will never really interact with you fully, or sometimes in any kind of way, because you've made a way of escape from reality or what is actually real, because you have allowed yourself to be in a prison, right? That's totally protected by racist rhetoric, racism, white supremacy. Right? This happens. You can grow up with somebody in your house. Racism, white supremacy, or the system, right? Or not even that, just in anything. You and your sibling had to make it through, and y'all developed bad habits, but because you had to make it through something by any means necessary, you did what you had to do, right? You were in certain neighborhoods where sisters weren't really effeminate, but in your neighborhood, they can't be effeminate. Southeast DC, sisters got to walk around with knives, no matter what your age is, right? So there's certain things I don't expect sisters to just outright do if you're from Southeast. I know in your mind, in your head, you got to be ready to check somebody if necessary. So it's not, you know what I'm saying? So it's I can't be. I have to realize that. But if you've gotten together with a bunch of other sisters and that's your mindset, then when you go somewhere where you ain't got to shank somebody, but that's the only mindset you know, which by the way, protect yourself at all times. But if that's the only mindset you know, I have to realize that that might be it. Right? And but you might not realize that you have a twoism. You have a system that where only you came into agreement with somebody else who was in your system, and that's all they know. And so if you're not careful, you'll never be able to be trained out of that. Okay, that's twoism. Let's go to the next one. Right, the next one up. Right, and if any of this doesn't make sense at any moment, please let me know. Next one is tribalism. Now you guys know what we know about this word tribe and what it really means. That being said, though, let's deal with what they call tribalism. Now, tribalism, he's doing something a little different, right? But that's why we have to know we're coming through this prism, right? Neely Fuller Jr.'s book, The United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept, okay? Number 4 is tribalism. By this, he means any 3 and or sometimes more than 3 people thinking, speaking, and or acting to satisfy each other with little or no concern for others in one or more areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and or war. All right, so peep game. What he just did there, if you missed it, he just said the most important thing on our list, number 1, was what? Racism, white supremacy, or racism. Number 2, he said is meism. That's when one person is just doing everything on their own and they're not really able to function outside of themselves. That's problematic. And you build a system on it, meism. Then secondly, he said there's twoism. Twoism is when it's just really you and somebody else, right? That's twoism. But then he goes into a place now he's calling tribalism, which, you know, we know what that word tribe means, but we'll just stick with that for this series, right? Whenever we see tribalism, we know what he's talking about. And tribalism is saying that once it gets past 2 persons, then basically you created a tribe or a community. So if you actually catch what he's saying racism and white supremacy is governing all. And some persons, the way that they might either help it or react to it and say, I'm going to do meism. Eventually down the road, you might meet somebody else. And when you meet somebody else, y'all react to it and you just close everybody else off. You say it's twoism. But then there's something that you reach to where you guys might actually start a community. So you might have parents that come together. Now you have a child. You teach your child this. Now it's tribalism. You see that? See, so meism, somebody's reacting to what? The racism. Or they might be supporting it, but they're doing it from their own closed off box. Then somebody else comes in, and as long as they share the same exact values, they say, okay, cool. Well, I'll open it up. It's twoism. It's just us against the world. But then when you get more than two, then he's calling it tribalism. All right, did you catch the order, the structure? I want to make sure that we're on that together. All right, so number one was racism. Number two was meism. Number three was twoism. Number four was tribalism. And it was number five. Number five is universalism. Now this is when it gets tricky. Universalism, which is any one or more persons thinking, speaking, and or acting to promote the revelation of truth and using the truth revealed in such a manner as to promote justice and correctness. To promote what? Justice and correctness. Remember, what does justice actually mean in the prism of what we're doing in this series? Justice means anything that is anti-racism, white supremacy. All right. So he says the revelation. So try universalism. When you make something a universal thing, everybody's following the same sentence, the same flow. Any one or more persons thinking, speaking, and or acting to promote the revelation of truth and using the truth revealed in such manner as to promote justice and correctness at all times, in all places, in all areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Wow. So put that together. Now let's look at the positive, because I've been pretty much floating on the negative side. But let's do it like this. Number one on the list was what? Racism. Number two is meism. Number three is twoism. Number four is tribalism. Number five is universalism. If we were to go through this list, number one is racism, white supremacy. The goal of us is to get rid of it, or at least separate from it. All right? Thank you for that, Minister Shante. And thank you, moderators. Appreciate love you. So, and how you doing, Radio Prince? How you doing, Mrs. Shima? Number one is racism, white supremacy. That system, right? It affects all. But so watch this. Even if, now let's focus on the positive side. Number two, if you need to deal with meism, if you're able to see that this is going on and it ain't nobody but you and Yah, you say, I'm separated. It's better than being part of racism, white supremacy. Is it not? Even if it's just me, myself, and I, meism. I'll set up what I got to do. I'll stop dealing with these holy days. I'll make sure that I'm, putting some money aside. If nobody's going to put into my business, I'll put into my business, whatever the case might be. I can be in the system, but not of it. But that's meism. Because ultimately, guess what? It starts with you. However, after that, you get into twoism. Believe it or not, there's always somebody out there who believes in being anti-racism, white supremacy as much as you do. I know you don't think so. It's like Elijah. Elijah's in the cave. Oh man, woe is me. Nobody, I'm the only one left. Y'all's like, if you don't get yourself together, there's hundreds that haven't bowed their knee down to Baal. What you talking about? You the only one. Keep moving. Right? Do righteousness within yourself and trust that there's somebody else that I have for you and that's on the same wavelength. You haven't met them yet. It doesn't mean that they're not there. Right? There's a meism. Get yourself together, but then there's twoism. There's somebody else out there. But then once you find that there's more than two, then that's what? Start building a nation. Tribalism. According to Neely Fuller Jr.'s definition, we're going to stay faithful to his definition, right? Tribalism. And then after that, once it becomes tribalism, make sure that anybody who comes into your so-called tribe, they keep the same sentence, the same law, the same principles. You got to speak the same way, universalism. That's why if we do this righteously, I don't force anybody to say, oh, my greatness. But guess what? Person starts saying, oh, my greatness, right? Universalism. Because we're within myself, meism, my reaction to racism, white supremacy is to get myself right with Yah, meism. My wife and I, twoism, come together. Twoism. My son is involved, and others even outside of ourselves who want to follow, right? Now it's tribalism. And then you go from there. Anybody who's in it, after a while, it becomes universalism. You catch the steps that he just gave? He just gave you a code on how to create a code, and how to keep it, and how to grow it, and how to become a nation. That's code. He just gave you the system. He just gave you the game. If you are anti-racism, white supremacy, then within yourself, meism, get it together. And when you come with somebody else, make sure they're like-minded and make sure you check them on it, twoism. And once you do that, anybody else who joins your society, tribalism, make sure that they're on the same page so that now you guys can have so-called universalism. Everybody operates the same, walks the same, lives the same, wears the same, etc. And I'm not saying you got to wear the same colors. I'm not saying everybody don't have to be Amish or whatever. I'm saying you have the same culture. Come on, concept. Even the word concept. Remember, there's precept, sept, and concept. A precept means something before an idea. So if something foundational to an idea, a sept, C-E-P-T, is an idea. The concept is becoming one with the idea. See, we're getting the concept. He's giving you the code. He's giving you the system. He's giving you the concept. Come on, I see you, Minister Shante. Right? You see, we got to be ready. You got to be ready for this. Right? So that's why we have to even make sure our chain of command and everything is together. Everybody got to be locked in. Everybody got to be locked in. We got to sound the same. We have to act the same. We have to react the same. We can't have persons that are all over the place in different manners. Right? It's important. As much as you think you should be able to do whatever you want, you can't do whatever you want because there's universalism, right? Your lack of universalism affects the tribalism, affects the communities, right? If you and it's guess what? Before that, it started with twoism, two persons coming together like-minded, and then becoming of one mind, and it's going to start with you getting this within your own mind. Let this mind be in you that also was in Yahashua HaMashiach. It started with him, meism. He had to follow the law. That's why you had to follow the law. Okay, let's go to page 41. I told you we're gonna skip the different places. You need to read the whole book. That's not my prerogative, nor is that what I'm called to do during this series. You're gonna need to read this whole book. This book is thick, it's extensive, it's got a lot in it. We're gonna go all the way down to page 41. All right, you guys ready? Page 41. You guys ready? We're gonna go to page 41. Page 41 is dealing with the 4 basic show-off isms by or among the victims of racism. Ooh, this is a doozy right here. Those who have gone through racism, white supremacy, we like to show off. I know you don't hear that. It's true. I know. No, not Pastor, not me. How dare you? You dare say I would show off? Yes, you. Yes, if I'm not careful. Because when you ain't had nothing, you like to show off. When you ain't had nothing for a long time. Right? Persons with money, they ain't walking around with 75 chains. 2 Chainz walks around with 2 chains, 2 bracelets, all that stuff. Why? Because he grew up with nothing. But if you got a head on you that really like, you don't care what everybody else says. Now you can still have gaudy stuff, but you ain't worried about wearing gaudy stuff all the time, right? When you really got it like that, you ain't tripping. And I know, look, the irony, right? 2 Chainz is 2 Chainz, but the irony of me saying that today, I get it. Right? But I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff, and I'm not just talking about jewelry or whatever. There's a lot of ways that we like to show off, right? That we like to show off, and it's not necessarily cultural. If it's cultural, that's not you showing off. That's just who you are, right? But there's a lot of stuff where we like to show off, right? So those who have gone through racism, white supremacy, there's a lot of things you're going to do because you show off, not necessarily because it's righteous. You hear me, beloved? Right? So you can tell a lot of us who are still suffering from racism, white supremacy because of how much we want to show off. There's a lot of you who will buy things just because you couldn't buy it. You even do this with your children. I don't want to step too much on the book's toes, so I'm going to stop after this point. But you even do it with your children. For those of you who are going to celebrate Christmas anyways, or who are going to feel bad, and so you're going to get your child a gift and, put it on the table. I've heard stories of, I was born and raised Jehovah's Witness. I've heard stories of Jehovah's Witnesses where they don't celebrate Christmas, but like their children or their nieces and nephews around that time, they'll invite them over to the house and they'll put something on the table. And it's kind of supposed to be understood, like, I can't tell you what this is for, right? But I want you to have something. And the reason is they showing off. Like, don't think just because I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I can't buy nothing. Or sometimes the mindset is, I'm showing off because, hey, I want you to know, I want you to have better than what I had. But just because I didn't get a gift, right? I love my father. Don't get this twisted what I'm about to say. But my father, he did what he needed to do. He worked 2.5 jobs. 2 jobs most of his life, and probably gonna work the one that he still has until until probably y'all calls him home. Right? And in the midst of all that, you know, I love the fact that he provided, he did everything he needed to. He was faithful to his wife, he was a great example to his son. He did everything he needed to. And even when him and I have not agreed, he has still been a great example of a man. That being said, if things were able to go differently, I would have always preferred to have him at home, you know. But sometimes we have this weird fascination, like, oh, if I can get my child them Tims, I'm gonna work harder to get them the Tims. Oh, they need that PS5. Ain't nobody even able to get the PS5 during this time like they used to. So if I can get them that PS5, if I can get them this little game set, if I can get them that, let me see if I can get them that D-Lo, whatever. Or that was back in the day. I don't know if they even do D-Lo anymore. I robbed people to get D-Lo. If I be honest, like I wanted D-Lo back in the day real bad. If y'all even know what I'm talking about, But like, hopefully the statute of limitations and stuff. I just put myself out, but at the end of the day, whatever, right? Like it's you wanted some, you wanted some whatever. You want your gear, you want to be fresh, whatever, and you trying to get your stuff together and all that stuff, and you'll do some stuff. But like, it's not it. You get older, you realize it's not a big deal, and guess what? Your children will realize it's not a big deal, right? When your child can travel, when your child can have land, when your child, you know, is able to take care of themselves, when your child loves themselves, right? It means more than the stuff that you can't get them right now. But they got you tricked into believing you got to go to the store. But it's show offism. When you're people who saw everybody around you was better than you and was allowed to have what you couldn't have because they were better than you. Matter of fact, remember, you weren't even a human being. So when you weren't considered to be a human being, that meant that you having a lack of humanity was psychologically tied to you not being allowed to have stuff. So when you became so-called free, a lot of you believe that your freedom is supposed to actually mean, this is what a lot of us believe. A lot of you believe that your so-called freedom is interconnected and interwoven in with your ability to buy stuff. Oh yes, it's the truth. A lot of you have a belief system because, right, to behave like master has what he wants, right? Right? And whether you're after his wife, right? And I'm not trying to say this to be me, I'm talking about the concept, I'm talking about the system. All right. All right, y'all know my heart on this. All right, sisters, white sisters included. Please don't get upset with me with what I'm about to say. I'm just telling you, I'm just giving a systemic thing. Brothers who are married to white sisters, right? I'm not talking bad about your wives. If there's a sister who's married to so-called white brother, please know I'm not talking bad about you, okay? All right, you ready? Okay, hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying, beloved. All right, you guys, if the shoe fits weird, if it don't, take it off. If you need to check me on it, check me on it. But I think what I'm about to say is all right within the context of this teaching, okay? This is why many brothers used to think of it not as far as wives, but as far as being able to sleep with. They didn't think, if you got married to them, cool. But your mindset was to get a white woman and get the white woman to do for you what the black woman wouldn't do for you. We about to go somewhere sexually. We already talked about this word sex. We about to go somewhere. It's going to mess with your mind a little bit. That's okay. If you get mad at me, you just get mad at me. I should have just said sister. Okay, well, if that's what you feel. But once again, in racism, white supremacy, I'm supposed to be afraid to tell you that you could be white and I could still love you even in your whiteness, so-called whiteness, right? It's okay for us to be of many different colors. It's okay for me to love the orange just as much as I love the lemon. And I don't have to say, like, sure, I don't have to say lemon, but there's a such thing as a green lemon in some cultures and a yellow lemon. And if I tell you it's a green lemon or a yellow lemon, I'm telling you that so that you know which one it is. That being said, it doesn't mean that I won't eat both. So for you, it's a struggle for you because you're still, and I get it, because it's an oppressive system, and we're not supposed to see color and all this stuff that we're taught, right? And this is a teaching moment, and I hope if anybody in the comments is saying something, they're not coming at you. I just want you to. This is a teaching moment. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I think that would make it at you. I'm not coming at you. I want you to see this, right? Because you're coming into the community. I've seen some of your videos you've been putting out lately. I've told you in the videos that I'm proud of you for some of the stuff that you've been saying, right? And I just want you to know, right? So don't do this thing where right? I'm saying that because you know, well, you should know. If you don't know, let me just make it plain. In our society, black men and white women, or black women and white men, is supposed to be ostracized from both sides for different reasons. All right. So since we at SOC have members who are married to each other and have children with each other, and I hope they stay with each other and take care of each other, right? Those persons who are in those type of relationships, or even if they're two white persons together, whatever, I hope that they stay in those relationships, but also they're part of our community. That being said, I'm going to make sure that they feel loved and they feel like this is a safe place, right? So I'm not going to dismiss what society says, since what we're teaching is what society says and how to get out of it. I'm not going to dismiss what society says, right? Just to do that. You said, so I support separation? If that's what you need to call it, sure. I separate from any system that should make me feel guilty about being able to say that if you're an Irish woman, you can look great as an Irish woman. And if that means that you're white, then you can look great as a white woman. And I have no problem with our sisters and telling them, right? Because when I say our sisters, yeah, I can say that too, because it's my blood. So my blood sisters, right? I have no problem telling them that they're okay with their blackness, right? And I think that you being offended by that, it shows that you might still have a little bit of tie with the system. That being right, that's a systemic thought that you're having. That's not a you thing. You're greater than that, I believe. Right? So that thing you're talking about, you create now. Do I believe in separation? I believe in separation from any wicked system. Yeah, you see, so we're on the same page. I want to make that clear, and I know this is going to be a rough. I told you guys this series is going to be rough. Okay, it'll be rough on everybody. Right? But it's not my intent to say that you can't blah blah whatever. It's not my intent to say you can't be saved because you're white. It's not my intent to say you're not as great as because you're white. It's not my intent to body shame, to color shame. But that's, guess what? If there's no color shame, let's deal with this real quick. You ready? If there's no such thing as color shaming, then we shouldn't be ashamed of saying what color somebody is. Right? If somebody's not ashamed of color, cool. Then we can talk about it. It's a lot, right? Pause and think about that. If I'm not ashamed of color, and if everybody's colored the way that y'all made them, then yeah, If I'm not right, so I'm not. Just like we shouldn't body shame, right? But watch this. If I'm not trying to body shame, but there's that rapper. I don't even know his name. Y'all know the guy dressed in purple or blue or something like that, had the velvet thing on, and Snoop was making fun of him, whatever. I'm not here to body shame, and Snoop kind of was making fun of him. But if I were to make a statement to the brother like, "Hey, we need to get you to lose some of that weight, or else you're not going to survive. You're on oxygen on stage, and you can't even stand up." I'm not trying to body shame. I'm trying to help him, right? And if I'm talking about some things that come out of systemic racism and systematically put in place, if I say we should notice what's going on, that somebody has us divided against each other, right? Then I should make sure that I point it out. So here's one of the things that's a real thing. This is a real thing that happened due to racism, white supremacy. Whether you like what I'm about to say or not, this is a real consequence. A real consequence of racism, white supremacy, has it to where there's a lot of persons who are a lot of persons who are the victims of it, right? And by the way, this could include white women who were victims of it as well and stuff. But I'm talking about as far as black persons in particular. White women were victims of racism, white supremacy, because they were told, help us to uphold it. And then when they didn't get their cut, they were just thrown out there and said, hey, you weren't nothing to us really anyways. Right? You can either get in and fit in, or you can go ahead and just be out, thrown out there, right? Which is where the feminist movement supposedly came from. Is that we were tied in, we were locked in. Remember, Susan B. Anthony, who's supposed to be great feminist warrior, said that when she was asked, would you support black persons to vote, she said she'd give up her right arm before she'd do that. Right? But in our mind, what we've taught is that no, like, it's all the same thing. It's not. Even within racism, white supremacy, she was fighting a different fight. They didn't even want, what the speech that we call "Ain't I a Woman?" They didn't even want Sojourner Truth to be there. That's why she only spoke for 5 minutes and was out. They told her that her fight was not their fight. So getting back to show-offism, right? Right? Getting up. Well, if it's nice to erase past traumas, but you shouldn't erase past traumas. You should help somebody through them, right? This isn't MIB, with the, and then you don't think about your trauma anymore, right? You've been through trauma. Your body's even dealt with it. There's even generational stuff that comes through DNA memory and stuff. We got to deal with the trauma and help persons through it, right? But that being said, so in show-offism, which we're about to go through the several stages of, rather, but in show-offism, you're dealing with the fact that there are persons who are black who show off. And in our community, because of how we were treated, we thought that anything white was a flex. So if you could get like land, white persons only could get land. So that's a flex. If you can go to churches they go to, that's a flex. That also means if you could be with them and lay down with them and nobody could say anything to you about it, that's a flex. Right? Am I saying that a white person and a black person can't come together and have children? Absolutely not. Am I saying, though, as far as through the lens of racism, white supremacy, and some of the residue that's on there, is it something that we say, like, okay, put it this way. I don't even know if some of you will catch what I'm saying, but we're going to go ahead and go here, right? I was trying to get out of this, but let's just go ahead before we read these show-offism things. Let's just continue to have honest conversation because it is where it is, right? It's important that we don't leave this stuff where it is. Okay? Look, racism, white supremacy, as much as you don't want to hear about this, like I just said, there's a lot of the victims of racism, white supremacy who show off, especially black persons, and they think therefore anything that at once was considered to be white is showing off. So you'll do what so-called white society says do, and you think that's showing off, right? So, for example, right, if we're talking about that's a flex, look at it like this. In our society, when black men start making a certain amount of money, and so-called black women ain't doing what they need to do and supposedly being submissive enough, what's one of the things that a black man will say? It's wrong. But what's one of the things that a black man will say? See, this is why this is a book written by us, for us, and to those who want to be grafted into us, you're going to have to recognize the code. Come on, sisters. Y'all know what I'm about to say, right? What's one of the first things that if a black man is making a bunch of money and he feel like these sisters aren't doing everything he want them to do, what's he say? What's he gonna do? What's he say he gonna do? No, not the baby mama stuff. This is what he says he gonna do. He says, you know what? You ain't acting like, you black women ain't acting like us, or ain't acting like what I want you to do. But you know who acts like them? Those white women do. And he'll say, I'm gonna go and work with them. They're more submissive. They're more this, and that ain't true at all. But that's in his mind. The white woman is the prize. So to flex on these black women, right, and to show, hey man, I make too much money for this, I'm not gonna deal with this stuff anymore. He leaves his sister. Now I'm not trying to say that he has no right to be attracted to and love whoever he wants to love. What I'm saying though, if you're leaving it or to go to them because they're better, right? That means, yeah, you're using them as a tool, but also you're flexing on your own, right? You saying, I'm wanting to come up. I make too much money to deal with this, but white women are worth me dealing with. And then when he realizes he deals with the same stuff, then he has to, live in that, right? Same thing with a white woman. A black woman. A black woman will say what? A black woman will go, oh, these N-words, they ain't nothing. They ain't do this. Y'all ain't doing blah, blah, whatever. You know what? The white men, they got it together. They got their credit score right. They got blah, blah. And they'll leave the brothers to go to the black man, and once again, or the white man, and once again, hey, love who you love if that's what you're actually doing. But if you're leaving them to say, hey, I'm too great for y'all, I'll find what I actually need because of the color of somebody's skin, that's a flex. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So that's wrong. Right? You'll even see white women do it on the opposite side sometimes sexually. Oh, well, he not doing this. Let me find a black man hypersexualizing a black person. We don't want to have honest dialogue about it, but that stuff exists. right? You'll see it on the opposite end, a black girl or whatever, right? And there's things that she'll say to a black man, I'll never let anybody do, but she gets with a so-called white guy, and all of a sudden she's doing stuff in the bedroom because, hey, he's allowed, and even does some weird game stuff that happens or whatever. I'm just trying to tell you, it exists. So what I'm saying is to leave on a flex is a problem, right? We're having an inaccurate conversation because we don't want to admit that part of what's going on is the fact that there's racism, white supremacy. I know we don't want to go there, but part of what's going on is that there is racism, white supremacy. And if we don't deal with the racism, white supremacy, same stuff continues to go on. Now, once again, am I saying every so-called mixed couple that come together is like that? No. But what I'm saying is it does exist. And there's a huge part of society that exists. And even, watch this, and remember we said part of this is that you will deal with it. You will react to it. Right? It's not even that you're going into it, but you have to react to it. So guess what? Believe it or not, and any of you mixed so-called, I hate to do this, but whatever. If you're a so-called mixed couple and you feel like you have to go ahead and tell me something different, feel like you have to tell me something different, right? But hear what I'm saying. A lot of them have to react to that too. A lot of white women who love black men, have children with them, and are faithful, have to always be looked at, and somebody's always checking them, and they know when they get into the relationship, they're going to deal with being thought of like that. A lot of black men who are with white women are always going to have to deal with it and be checked on it, and know they're going to have to be checked on it. Why? Because that's what's thought of. Even if they're not doing it, it's so pervasive in society that persons will ultimately still think that's what they're doing because there's so many persons that do it. So even if they are the outlier, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Right? Even if they are the outlier, it doesn't mean that they don't that doesn't exist. Right? It exists so much. Watch. Have okay, forgive me. It is what it is. Have a white woman go into a black neighborhood and start flirting with black men and see what black women do. Have a white man come into the hood and start and flirting with black sisters and see what black men do. It's not because it's even right. It's because there's a system set up and it's been around for so long and it affects everything so much that persons have to think about that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Once again, if you were to meet my grandmother, right, she's already passed, but if you were to ever have met her, you would think she looks like, to me, she looks like the Queen of England. Right, that's how she got the black blood in her, the one drop rule, all that stuff. She's here because somebody doing something to her parents. That's how she got here, right? To her mother, that's how she got here, looking like that. That being said, right, that's what she looks like, and she used it sometimes for her benefit because she knows that she could pass and she could get certain things done. My mother did it too, to a lesser extent, but she did it too. That being said, right, real talk, that woman, who, by the way, colorism was in our family. She hated the fact that my mother got with my father because of the color of his skin. Okay? So I come from this. And I know what it is to see what this is. And to see my mother with my father. And everybody look at my mother, even though it was colorism. She was not so-called white, but she could pass for white. So since she could, every woman, blood tied or not, looked at my mother a certain way. And I didn't pick up on it until I was about 5 or 6. But once I picked up on it, I knew what it was. And persons were very confused that my mother could give birth to somebody who looked like me. Right? That was part of what they went through. My parents had to leave. They had to get into real tourism and leave everybody else alone because both sides of the family were against us. Right? Just because they decided that they loved each other and had a genuine love. And my mother had to keep telling me over and over again, love yourself, you have beautiful black skin. And I was like, why is she always telling me this? Not realizing she's married to a man to where every day he deals with anybody he comes into contact with who knows about his white wife, he's getting all this foolishness. So you can say all day, you can just say blah, blah. It's important that we admit that this stuff is there and we talk it through and we make sure that we have a code that says that we can go past that. But we also have to know that our code is not everyone else's. And when you go into the world, the system, their system is designed to try and say, why are you with that N-word? That's what their system says. Period. You said listen to Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman is somebody who smacks his wife all over the place. You make sure that Morgan Freeman stops smacking his wife, and then I'll go ahead and participate. But if you can't hold him accountable for that, I'm not trying to listen to him talk about basic humanity. All right? I'm not. Okay, just saying. Morgan Freeman, the wrong person to bring up in this. Okay? Same Morgan Freeman, who at one point in his career was making sure that he fought for black people to have more opportunities. Now he wants to say there's such thing as black or white. Make sure he stops smacking his wife around, right? What am I talking about? If you don't know what I'm talking about, this ain't for you. Get your level up. I'm not that difficult to comprehend. All right? Thank you for the love. So this is what we're talking about. All right, so back to the book. United, Independent, Compensatory Code / System / Concept. Okay? And we're about to go over 4 basic show-offisms. In our culture, there are persons that show off. And this is 4 basic ones, reasons why we show off. Okay? 4 basic show-offisms by or among the victims of racism. Number 1, showing off to each other the things that white people have allowed them to obtain. Right? Showing off to each other the things that white people have allowed us to obtain. So-called white people. Okay? You hear this? Showing off to each other the things that so-called white persons or white people, if they want to be part of that nation of white supremacy, right, that they have allowed you to obtain. Right? You have to be careful. There's a lot of persons who show off and don't even realize what you're showing off. You're only allowed to have in the first place, and you don't have it, right? So watch this. Your car, you don't go and get cars that are built by you. You get cars that are built by somebody else. And the government that you're in that oppresses you tells you that you can drive it on their street or not. A lot of you don't even want to travel in it, so you drive it. And the only reason you drive it and have your driver's license is because you're licensed to work for the state, or somebody who's under the state's jurisdiction, whether it be the actual state or it be the artificial person that's a state, right? So many of you will brag about your car that you get, but you only got the car because of this, right? Many of you, there used to be this thing where you said black persons are drunks, blah, blah, this and that, but you can't even break a liquor seal without breaking the government seal. Every time you break a liquor seal, you break a government seal, right? There are persons, oh, well, all these persons who are on drugs and the crack epidemic, and what you got to say about that? Ronald Reagan is the one who initiated it. So you couldn't even sell it unless the government told you could. Oh, yes, persons forgot, or they just haven't read up. There is no crack epidemic without Ronald Reagan and George Bush and the CIA. You think that you think that those type of recreational things come into the country without permission? In your mind, though, what were you taught? Enough to vote Bill Clinton in because he was going to take care of super predators. Super predators code for black folk. But the super predators that you're saying can't even prey upon the so-called person they're preying upon unless there's a master that says you can go ahead and do that. But you don't think about it that way, and you're not taught to think about it that way. You're taught to down the persons and never look at who is actually in charge of the plantation, because you don't question massa on the plantation, not in racism, white supremacy. You see? See, even in stuff when persons say we shouldn't talk about color, even when you say we shouldn't talk about color, you know that color is a show off. If you have, see, I'm trying to help you. Once again, I know that there's family members and there's families and you guys aren't doing it for that. Cool. If the shoe fits, wear it. That's why I say this all the time. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it does not, you do not have to keep it on your foot. Don't get no bunions and corns because you're trying to keep something on that doesn't fit. All right? Okay. So for those of you, right, who have a problem with what I'm saying, but you don't want to admit that there's these other things that exist, right? If you were on Master's plantation and you had a so-called mixed race child, your mixed race child was automatically supposed to be treated better than everyone else. They were supposed to be smarter. They were supposed to be more handsome. They were supposed to be more beautiful. Their attraction was supposed to be better, all that, just because of that. But the only reason you had the mixed race child was why? Because Massa had done something to you without your permission. So even the child that you had, I know y'all want to hear this, but it's real talk. Even the child that one would have had back then is only due to the fact that Massa not only allowed you to have the child, but forced you to have it. But that child was a flex. You said they had a love affair. Thomas Jefferson was raping all those women. He was having a love affair. See, you were taught to romanticize it. Read up about the woman that they made the whole thing about Thomas Jefferson. They do this with all these slave owners. Read up about what Thomas Jefferson was actually doing to her, and how there are stories of when he drug her over to France and still had her in chains at times and had her posted up against things in the door, against the doorway and stuff like that, and was doing all types of stuff to her. Right? We're acting like this stuff is Now, once again, yeah, if it was a love affair or something on your end, that's fine, right? But you weren't on the plantation. There are things, though, that were done on the plantation that affect persons, including how persons look at even what you're looking at, including what you might be looking at. You see what I'm saying? Somebody's taking offense, and so much offense. And look, take offense if you need to, but I'm asking you, in all your offense that you have, be angry and sin not. Don't miss the mark. Don't miss the truth, because you're so busy saying that, hey, I look similar to what somebody else looked like. That's racism, white supremacy. Right? Right. By the way, you're not the first person that would argue me down or be upset and somewhat even just stop listening to me because of what I have to say about this. But the truth is the truth. And I told you before, even in looking at me, I think it's even been missed. It shows some of the truth that I'm even talking about, right? Because of what I'm about to say. And I'm not trying to say that you racist, blah, blah. Here, I hope you can hear what I'm saying. At this point, I'm not going to defend it anymore. Right. But I hope you catch what I'm about to say, and I'm gonna leave it here, and then we really got to focus in on where we're going. Like, at this point now, I'm not actually doing anything that serves. After this, I don't think anything else that I say is actually serving the conversation correctly. Okay. So real talk, the fact that you can't see that I might see what you're talking about, even though I legit have just said, in essence, I myself am a mixed race child. That's what I've been right? Like, if my grandmother, right, my maternal grandmother, had something done to her parents, and that's the reason why she looked, and her parents had something done to them, and that's the reason they looked. So they're the result of, right? Okay. And then my mother still passed for white. And my father's side of the family and my mother's side of the family couldn't stand each other because of blah, blah. And I've even talked about before that my brother and sister don't look the same color as me, so you would probably see the mixed on them, but you're not even realizing I look like my so-called passing for white mother. So when I'm talking to you about it, I'm not talking to you about something that I have no clue about. I'm talking to you something that, because you, once again, are so busy saying I don't see color, you're so busy not seeing that I'm supposedly what you call mixed race. Even if it's not mixed race the way you think of mixed race, I'm supposedly mixed race. You see what I'm saying? But because of racism, white supremacy, we've been taught that even though I'm telling you the same thing that you're saying about yourself, you don't see it in me because of the color of my skin. Now, had I been several shades lighter and saying the same thing, you probably hear it different. Not because you're racist, because there's a system of racism, white supremacy. You see the difference? Okay. After that, I can't really address it but so much. Okay? You hear what I'm saying? So after this, I can't really address it but so much. All right? So at this point, if I were to go on there, we're not actually talking about what we're talking about anymore. Okay. So here we go. The first one was showing off, like I said. Showing off to each other the things that white people have allowed them to obtain. Number 2, showing off to each other the information that white people have allowed them to obtain. What makes your child smart? Is your child in school considered to be smart because they know about Mansa Musa? Or is your child in school considered to be smart because they know about George Washington? We show off our children's education, but we don't show off the education. Is your child in school considered to be smart because um, they know about the first black woman to become an oil tycoon and to become a millionaire? Or are they known to be smart because they know about Bill Gates? But we show off this education as if it's education that benefits us or is of us or even educates them on themselves. You're not supposed to show off your child knowing about themselves. Benjamin Banneker. How much does your child know about Benjamin Banneker? In school, he's a footnote. But Washington, D.C. doesn't exist if it's not for him. And by the way, there's a place called L'Enfant Plaza, right? We actually have P.O. box and stuff set up over there and little office and space and stuff like that from time to time we utilize over there, right? L'Enfant Plaza. L'Enfant Plaza, right? It's named after L'Enfant. I believe his first name is Charles. I could be wrong. I believe it's Charles L'Enfant. L'Enfant. I could be wrong on that. But L'Enfant was somebody who was hired to make sure that he got things together for DC. Benjamin Banneker, a genius who made an almanac, actually was able to determine when, the moon was going to be in place and when the eclipse was together through math and stuff like that. He doesn't even get credit for that. You always credit everybody else, but he was doing that, right? He's the one who actually was asked to survey where Washington, D.C. would be because they knew that his mathematical equations were on point. So before you guys have all this extra stuff that y'all use now for surveying and stuff, he was out there surveying using mathematical equations in his head. That's how you got the parameters for Washington, D.C. And there was a guy named L'Enfant. There's a plaza named after him and everything. He had plans that they were going to use within Washington, D.C., right? White person, right? But so everybody, if you go to D.C., you'll see L'Enfant Plaza, but you don't hear anybody talk about Benjamin Banneker, right? But L'Enfant gets upset, be on his high horse or whatever, wanted something. He couldn't get exactly his way. He pulled a so-called Karen or whatever y'all call it nowadays, and he rolled out and left, and he took all the plans with him. And they came to Benjamin Banneker because Benjamin Banneker was so smart that they said, hey, he left with the plans. He said, oh, no problem. I got photographic memory, basically. Everything that he wrote out, I already know what it is. And I'm the one that surveyed everything anyways. So all the stuff that he planned out we'll use anyway. Since you paid for it, you might as well get what you paid for. He lays it out for him. Nowhere are you going to hear him mention, though, right? It's unless you're really looking for him. Benjamin Banneker, Benjamin Banneker, in the 1700s, during the times of chattel slavery being heavy, right? Before United States of America is even a country, Benjamin Banneker is doing all these great things or whatever. Benjamin Banneker creates, the first wood clock. That's why Big Ben in London is called Big Ben, because it's something that he created. They wouldn't have had the ability to make a Big Ben if it was not for him, right? And all of the gears that he made in the clock and stuff like that he made, all of the gears on the inside of it, he carved them by his own hand. I didn't know that till I was studying earlier today, right? He carved all that by his own hand, right? But how much are you going to hear about Benjamin Banneker? And how many places in Washington, D.C. are you going to see him mentioned? But you have a whole plaza named L'Enfant Plaza after the guy who tried to steal money and basically said, I wasn't going to give you the plans. And then Benjamin Banneker has all the stuff. They end up taking all the stuff from him slowly but surely. His neighbor, who's somebody who gets more play than him as well, ends up trying to take his land over time. After he passes away, he ends up giving his neighbor stuff back that his neighbor lent to him, because ultimately, by the end of his life, he can't even afford to live, righteously. He lives away on a little piece of land, and then when he ends up passing away, the almanac, he had to stop. He was selling the almanac. A lot of persons didn't know Benjamin Banneker was black, so they were buying it up. Eventually, persons stopped buying it, though, so he couldn't make money off of that. So he ended up stopped printing it out. When he passed away, he has to give it to somebody else who doesn't care about him, who takes that book and uses it for other things. And now here it is where persons don't even know he has a whole almanac out, proving what he did, what he meant, who he was, how he was saying things about the whole world. Right, but you don't learn anything like that about him. Now, many of you have learned stuff about him on your own over time, but if you learn anything in school, he's a footnote. Yeah, he helped with DC. You don't even know what he did. Right? Now, I'm saying all that to say what? If your child if it's in DC, they're supposed to know about more about L'Enfant than they know about Banneker. Why? Because even though L'Enfant didn't even build what he said, now he did design stuff, sure, but he didn't even do the work. L'Enfant's supposed to get more credit than Banneker is. If you're in London and you see Big Ben, you're not even supposed to say, oh yeah, that's a black man that did that. You're just supposed to go, wow, look at what it is that we did. Because that's the way the system's set up. You're not supposed to show off, even the education that you receive, you're only supposed to show off what you learn from the racist white supremacists. All right, let's keep on going. All right, number 3, showing off to each other. If you notice so far, we do this to each other. It's not even so much that we're showing off to them. We're showing off to each other. You see, I speak like they speak. I wear what they wear. Blah, blah. Okay. Showing off to each other their ability to belittle each other. That's why you play the dozens. That's why you Joan. That's why you fry somebody up. Right? You're supposed to show off your ability to tear each other down. Why do you suppose that is? Why do you suppose that you're supposed to show your ability to tear each other down? Why do you suppose that is? Think about it. Why do you suppose? Why do you suppose you're supposed to tear each other down and be great at it? What do you think that does for the system? Where do you think that comes from? Amen, Minister Nice. How you doing, Just Josh? Where do you think that comes from? To tear each other down. To keep each other down? Okay, racism, but where do you think it comes from? Are we in racism and white supremacy? Why do you think it's important to the system of white supremacy or racism, white supremacy? Why do you think it's important to that religiosity that you continue to tear each other down? You guys should already know, and biblically speaking, you should already know where I'm going. I say it all the time. You gotta know your place, sure. What else though? There's a spiritual reason, emotional reason, control to a certain extent, yeah. The system is but the system works on its own, right? You being raised in the system, you're going to learn. Even if you never do it, you're going to learn that persons Joan or fry each other up or play the dozens. So we can't grow as a nation. Come on, watch it. Let's go to Psalm. On your own time, read Psalm 122. Let's go to Psalm 123 though. Right, I'm going to read the beginning of Psalm 122. Matter of fact, let's go in your Bible. Psalm 122. See, persons don't look at your Bible as even being revolutionary. But if you're in a system where your people are oppressed, then this is going to be revolutionary. This is why Toussaint, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Nat Turner, others keep telling you that they read that Bible and that Bible changed what they thought about how their people should be led. Right? Psalm 122. To be unlawful. All right. To be unlawful. Psalm 122, verse 1. Watch this. And so this is the third song of degree. We're going to read this one, and then we're going to go into the beginning of the fourth song of degree, Psalm 123. Right? I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house, the bits, the family of Yahweh. Right? Our feet shall stand where? Verse 2. Psalm 122 verse 2 says, our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem, O Jerusalem. Right? Jerusalem is built as a city that is compact together. What does that mean? Jerusalem is built to where we're supposed to come together as a family, as a community. How you doing, Michael? All right. Verse 4. Whether the nations go up, the nations of Yahweh unto the testimony of Israel, to give thanks unto the name of Yahweh. For there are set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, that they shall prosper that love thee. Peace be within thy walls. The walls of where? Jerusalem. All right, now keep listening to this. Right, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. This is Israel, testimony of Israel, right? Verse 8. For my brethren and companions' sakes, for my brethren and companions' sakes, for those that are my blood and those that are actually going to roll with me, who are my true friends, those who are grafted in. For my brethren and companions' sake, I will now say, Shalom, or peace be within thee, because the family of Yahweh our Elohim, I will speak what is constitutional according to him. Now watch this. Psalm 123. Keep on going. What's this fourth step say? Psalm 123. Unto thee I lift up mine eyes, O thou that dwellest at Shemayim. Behold, as the eyes of servants look unto the hand of their masters. And as the eyes of a maiden unto the hand of her mistress, so our eyes wait upon Yahweh, our Elohim, until that he have mercy upon us. In the same manner that you would look at the person that you are under, is the way that you should look up to Yah. Verse 3, why is it important that we focus on Yah and focus on us as a nation? And focus on making sure that we are glad when persons saying to us, let us go into the house, this family of Yahweh together, rather than being in this family. Verse 3, have mercy upon us, O Yahweh, have mercy upon us. Twice over, that means pay attention culturally. Pay attention to what we need to have mercy given to us or have mercy put upon us. Have mercy upon us, O Yahweh, have mercy upon us, for we are exceedingly filled with contempt. For we are exceedingly, right? It's not just that we have contempt, it's overflowing. Like, even when we think we've gotten rid of this level of contempt, there's still contempt coming. There's generations of it flowing over and over and over again. We're not just dealing with the regular thing, oh, you guys just get over it. Just don't see color. Why are you still talking? No. This was done systematically and systemically, right? By many nations. Babylon did this to you. Assyria did this to you. Kemet did this to you. Cush tried to do it to you. Right? We don't want to talk about this, right? The Medo-Persians did it to you. The Medes and the Persians did it to you. Their empire. The Greeks did this to you. The Romans did this to you. Roman Catholicism did this to you. Right? Protestantism did this to you. Mixing of iron and clay. You were supposed to be the ones who are the progenitors of this message, and it's supposed to be your word, supposed to be your culture. Somebody said, no, you don't even have a right to make it your culture. They keep coming from outside your culture to tell you what's yours. We're exceedingly, it's not just that you're filled with contempt, you are exceedingly filled with contempt. I'm sorry, Shalom, BRW. Oh, by the way. Okay. Hey, how you doing, Sister Say? Sorry. All right. We are exceedingly filled. Not just we have contempt, we're filled with contempt. We are exceedingly filled. It means every time you think that you finally gonna be able to put your head up for air, there's more contempt. Right? And watch this. Our soul, our nachevash, our psyche, remember in the Greek the word soul is psyche or psyche. Your psyche, your psychology is exceedingly filled with the scorning of those that are at ease. In other words, there are persons who are not at ease unless you are scorned. To be scorned is basically to be at the bottom. If you don't think of yourself as a bottom feeder, the system doesn't work. Right? So our soul is exceedingly filled with the scorning of those that are at ease and with the contempt of the proud. Persons are proud of the fact that they made you like this. And dare I say it, because some of you are still American citizens, so you won't be really upset with this, but it is what it is. Dare I say it, though? Look, if you're proud to be an American, you're proud about what you built America upon. And if you're proud about what you built America upon, you built it upon the contempt and scorning and exceeding contempt of those who actually built what you live upon. Salah. Be mad if you want. It's the truth. If you are proud to be an American, hee-haw, that you are proud to live in a society that says that we give more respect to the traitors. Long live the Confederacy. The South shall rise again. That's what you're proud of. You're proud of not knowing what Juneteenth is. And then when it becomes something, making it a left-wing thing rather than a black folk thing that we've been doing for years. You're proud of Veterans Day and Memorial Day, which are both so-called holy days or holidays that we did first because you wouldn't respect us. So we had to make memorials for ourselves, and we had to respect our own veterans since they couldn't get any play and couldn't get taken care of. Like in places like New York, I know you're thinking only in the South, but now I mean, go up to this, go to New York. Now I mean, and when you go up there, bro, like for real, like you'll see straight up these cats, like now I mean, they straight up like had stuff where they killed black veterans in the street, and then when white veterans were with them, they killed them too. But in your mind, right, you got to be proud of that. So you have to act like that didn't happen, and you have to act like there are persons that are not affected by that till this day. Right? You have to keep saying, why y'all keep talking about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? That happened a long time ago. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, not by the shot, by the way. He was smothered by a pillow in his room. Right? His family won a lawsuit. Right? They didn't win the criminal one. They won the whatever you call the other one when you just sue for the money. Right? His family won in court, where the state had to pay him because he was smothered with a pillow in his room. That's when he was assassinated. He was shot, but then he was assassinated, right? And when he was assassinated, right, and his family won, so you can go look this up. This is not something. That was in 1968. You do the math. 78, 88, 98, 2008, 2018. Add what? 6 more years? That's 56 years ago. So let's say somebody was 4 years old, and they're 60 years old now. 60 years old. You don't think that a person who loved Martin Luther King Jr. at 4 years old wasn't traumatized? You think that if somebody saw it happen when it was being filmed, that they saw it when they were there, you don't think they were traumatized? You guys talk about the trauma of JFK still. You guys talk about how much it hurt to see what happened to Abraham Lincoln still. But you don't think what happened with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for people? And then that night when black persons were angry and had every right to, and they started rioting, you guys had Mike Wallace and others who y'all now want to act like a cute old white men coming on television and asking black leaders to come on and started scolding them and telling them who's going to be in charge for this. Why are you guys allowing this to happen? That was 1968. If we go to Malcolm is what, 1965? So if somebody was 63 years old? You don't think there's any 63-year-olds, any 60-year-olds that were messed up by that? You remember that there were black children that were still being kept out of white schools in the 70s. I mean, the 80s and 90s, if we want to be real, and still today, but they do it different now. But let's just say the 70s, right? 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 20s now, right? You don't think somebody 50 years old who was trying to get into school and persons were trying to keep them out and they were throwing things at them and they were a little baby? There's actually literally no lie, no joke. I told you this series is not going to be pretty. It's going to be truthful. No joke. Do you not know that there are white mothers? I want to be clear. I know that white is not a color, but we're talking about within the concept of this teaching and the concept of this book. Do you know that there are white mothers? I want to say mothers because I want you to understand this means they have children. Right? This is why persons don't want you to hear the term white, this, that, whatever. But no, you need to hear this. And within the prism of racism, white supremacy, within this religiosity and how foolish it is, that there are white women who are white mothers who literally used to go to school buses. And you know how many mothers this means you had to do? Because it's a school bus, not a car, a school bus. A bunch of white mothers who would know that black children, black babies, were on school buses and didn't like the fact that the school buses were carrying black children. So they would find the school buses with the black children still on them, right? And flip the school buses over. How many persons you think it takes? How many women you think it takes to flip a school bus over? Would flip the school bus over, but we're not finished yet. Oh, no. You would think that'd be it. We're not done. See, because not only did they flip the school bus over, then they would burn the school bus, blow the school bus up. And right? But because of racism, white supremacy, you heard me earlier mention white, and you were like, why are you mentioning white? It's important that you catch this because this means, once again, I didn't just say white women, I said white mothers. And I forget the poet, or the author, the sister who said this, but when she said it, it really made me have to rethink a lot of stuff. Because she said like this, because I was still holding out hope that, maybe I didn't have to talk like I'm talking today and I wouldn't have to go this deep into stuff. Not for this series, but just in general, years ago. But when she said this, it was just like, okay, I gotta defend our people. And I gotta defend anybody who's like-minded and anybody who's gonna support us, then they gotta really support. They gotta be part of this. Toni Morrison, exactly. You know who I'm talking about. She said this part next. She goes, and I think this is even floating around social media, or I don't know, it probably is. You probably be able to find it somewhere. Um, she said, she goes something to the effect of, there's no way that she said in her mind, as soon as it happened, she started asking herself, could she ask any group of colored women, especially black women, and not just women, but mothers? She said even non-mothers, because if you're a non-mother, maybe you don't have a connection with a child. But she said there's no way. She said even if it was the child of a KKK member, she said, could she imagine a bunch of black women getting together and flipping over a bus and then burning the bus down? She says she can't even fathom it. Right now, this is not just because a white person is automatically bad. Hear what I'm saying. Just get the context. She said she thought about it. Persons of color. She said, what if the person was somebody who had offed your child and they had a baby? Could she see a bunch of black women? Could she ask a whole bunch of black women come together and flip the bus over and burn the baby because they don't like the parent? She said she can't even fathom. She said, could she see that there's persons that don't even like white person? They bigoted and hate white people. But could she get black mothers together and they would flip over a bus and they would burn it with a child inside? She kept saying, every time she looked at it, she was like, I don't even think I could ask, let alone do I think that I could get black women together. No matter where I am in the world, no matter what they've done to us, she said, there's no way I can do it. And when she said that, I was like, yeah, I've got to talk about, I got to be more vocal. Where the person's like it. Now, once again, it's not about the person as much as it is the system. The reason why she can't fathom it is because she's not of that system anymore, first of all. But secondly, in that system, you would never fathom doing that to a white child. Matter of fact, in that system, black sisters would nurse and take care of other children before they took care of their own. And I'm not just talking about in the 1800s, 1700s. I'm talking about in the 1900s. And for real talk, I'm talking about today. Some of y'all don't live in certain cities, so maybe you don't see it, or some of you don't open your eyes to it as much. There's still black women out here who will take better care of their children or better care of somebody else's children than their own, because taking care of somebody else's children is what pays their children's bills. So systemically and systematically, it's automatic that they're going to take care of that child better, because if they don't do really well with that child, then their child doesn't eat. So the better they take care of somebody else's child, the more they have for their own. That's systemic. Am I saying that a black person should never babysit for a white person? No. What I'm telling you, though, is there's a system that's in place and in line for that. How you doing, Sister Sheila? I'm sorry. I just saw you on here. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm just saying, so persons get upset. We don't want to talk about the system. There's a system. And until you deny the system, not deny that it exists, until you deny the system. Like if you end up getting gangrene, right? And we have to do something to your arm and do a tourniquet or something, what we're doing is we're denying the blood. Over time, though, if you deny the blood, that part of the body is not only gonna not have any life left, but might even partially just fall off eventually at some point because it's tied off. It's not getting the blood. You're denying flow to it. If you're not going to deny, right, energy towards it, then you are the problem. This is the thing that I can't stand when persons go, just don't talk about it. No. If you don't talk about it, but it still lives, then you're the problem. If you deny it, not deny it as far as I'm just trying to lie. No, deny it as far as cut it off. If you cut it off, then we can talk. But stop trying to tell me that you really want to be part of my system and part of my family, and you want our families to be intertwined, and you won't deny flow to white supremacy, racism, and white supremacy. That hand should have fell off a long time ago. The only reason why it still exists is because somebody's giving it power. That hand is only a certain percentage of the body. The persons who are the racist white supremacists, they're only a certain percentage of the body. If you really want that to go away, let it go. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to be let go, though. It's not going to be let go. And that's why somebody got all upset about it. You're getting upset because you hear me mention white and you go, you shouldn't have said white. You should have just said sisters, or you should have just said women. No, no, no. No. To be white in this system is something that needs to be called out. Because if you're offended by being, watch this. If you're, all right, Holy Ghost heavyweight. Look, if you're offended that I use the word white, it's because you identify with it. I'm gonna use language that's not pastor type usage. So if your child is listening or something like that, please, right? I'm not gonna curse per se, but I'm gonna say the N word. But I want to use an example. All right, and it's not like y'all gonna be listening to the person say this word all day anyway. All right, you ready? If somebody say, hey, what's up, nigga? That's my nigga over there. That's Kofi. I'm not a nigga. But that being said, all right, like, if they keep saying it, I might be like, yo, bro, I appreciate it, but please don't call me that, whatever. But if you call me a couple times, it's not gonna stop my day, right? It's not, right? If you say that stuff, matter of fact, if you say some really racist stuff, I'll look at you. My flesh might kick up for a hot second, but I'll calm down. I'll keep pushing. It's really not really gonna stop me. There's a person that come into the live sessions and say stuff like that. It's not gonna stop me, right? The only way that really, really offends me is if, like, I'm actually that. You know what I'm saying? Right? But it's a really weird philosophy, right? Like if somebody says, "Oh, you stupid," I mean, whatever. Like, I'm not fighting you because you call me stupid. I know the contrary. Matter of fact, the person who's on my platform that Yah has given me the intelligence to be able to uphold obviously shows that I am not stupid. If you can't hear somebody say, right, like if I say, sisters, we got to get it together when it comes to the sisters that already got it together, they not like, Pastor Kofi, don't say that about me, because I'm not talking about you. And if I am talking about you, take it up with the Most High, or contact me, or call me out in a second. Let's have a quick conversation. And I can tell you, oh, okay, my fault. I said it wrong, blah, blah. But you see what I'm saying? If somebody say, man, y'all brothers, man, y'all got to stop treating women like trash and stop saying that they not real women and stop saying that other women are better than them because of the color of their skin. I don't go, man, don't talk about me over here. SOC, we don't. No, I go, you're right. We got to. Because they tell them, I get the context of it. They're not attacking me. They're attacking a group of men, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, as part of that group of men, right, who you're talking about, I recognize, even if I don't have to say I recognized a long time ago, I recognize that there's a problem in this group of men. Who am I, or what benefit do you have of knowing me if I won't even stand up for you in the group that I'm in? If somebody says, sailors, they got a problem with homosexuality and promiscuity, bare minimum, if it's not homosexuality, when they leave, they be getting other women pregnant and stuff. I say, yeah, sailors do. And I'm a sailor. I don't got no babies outside the country. I don't got no stuff I'm cheating with or whatever. I ain't never brought no kind of STDs or nothing back to the crib. That's not on me, but I've been around long enough, and I came in young. So I came in 17, and I came in, like innocent in a lot of ways. I didn't know that the persons actually did this stuff or whatever. And so I saw cats doing this stuff. I saw them bringing all types of women here, there. I saw them invite me to go somewhere, and it was like, for real, like the Notorious B.I.G. video, right? Like the Juicy video, walking around and being like, oh, like these women getting tested so they could show you cards and stuff in there and be like, I'm clean, and me being nervous as I don't know what and just running out because I didn't know what to do, and them making fun of me later on, like, why ain't you getting nothing? Because right, I've seen this stuff. So if somebody says sailors got a problem, I'm not gonna be like, well, I never did. No, sailors got a problem. right? If you can't hear somebody say that a group that you're part of needs to get better, and you're in that group and you even see that stuff go on, and your only thing is to go, why is he talking about me? It's probably because maybe I am. And it's not because you're a bad person. Once again, this is a system. Hopefully you start to come out of it, or at least start to realize the system is rigged. And it's also, if you don't know, it's rigged against you. So we're trying to get you out of the system, because if you're somebody who's having to argue about it, I'm going to tell you this: white supremacists don't have to argue about their position because they're too far away from you. They're not getting interviewed. The person that's really leading the system, they're not on Fox News. Not like that. Right? The person who's leading the leftists who act like they're your friend and then they do something else in private to you, or behind the scenes in private, behind your back, they're not really on CNN like that. They're protected. All right, time is almost over. Let's do this fourth one and then we're done for the day. Thank y'all. Thank you for your time. All right, last one, number 4, is showing off to each other their ability to make sexual impressions on each other. I'm going to go a couple minutes over, but we're going to finish up at least this on time. Showing off to each other their ability to make sexual impressions on each other. Black men love to be able to show you how they can breed. Not how they have sex, because sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. Not to make the sister feel comfortable. No. Right? He would love to make sure another man know how many girls he got the number, how many times he did this, what position he hit it in, blah, blah. If she was white, if she was Spanish, if she was Puerto Rican, all this foolishness we be saying. I'm just saying, black men love to be able to let you know that if you had to choose between them, I'm sorry, I'm using an old name because I don't be watching no stuff. But if it's between them and somebody like a Ron Jeremy or somebody, I know that's old school, but whatever. Right, that's old school lasciviousness right there. Right, that's old school lust right there. But if you had to compare them to somebody and them, and he points out at them, they say, "Oh no, they ain't got me, bro. I had it like this. Her feet was in the chandelier, bro." Right. Right, she ain't got nothing on me, man. She was sitting up there, she was moaning, blah, blah. She was saying this, blah, blah. I didn't love to even do foolishness like, yo, I had her man on the phone. Her man was on the phone, son. And she was talking to him. She was trying to keep it down and act like I wasn't doing. I mean, foolishness. Chattel slavery. It's chattel slavery. It is what it is. Like, you be mad all you want. It's chattel slavery. Bruh. That's what it is. You know how to breed. You don't know how to have sex. Sisters be trying to act like y'all are more, usually are more discreet than brothers are. But you ain't gonna say, shoot, girl, you been going up with so-and-so for a minute. What he like? And then you say, girl, and that's your way, like, I'm not trying to tell you my business, but girl, and it'd be like, and then she go, girl, what he really doing? And you be like, okay, I don't really kiss and tell, but, and then as soon as it's but, it's on. I know, you ain't gotta admit it. Don't admit it. I ain't shaming nobody, but you know I ain't lying. You know I ain't lying. Girl, you hit him with the girl, and then she's supposed to go, girl, what he do? And then, I don't know, I'm the kiss and tell. It'd be something. It's almost to the letter. Come on, you know I ain't lying. And then you get a husband, you get with somebody you in a long-term relationship with, and he always looking weird. He like, why they looking weird at me? And either because he hitting it right or he ain't hitting it right. Mm. Love to show off. Oh, I know. I'm not Pastor Kofi. Pastors ain't supposed to talk like this, right? Supposedly. You got sisters, right? Pastors ain't supposed to talk like this. I know. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to pretend that this stuff doesn't exist, and that we're not supposed to pretend that this stuff doesn't happen. But showing up in the black community. See, if you notice, by the way, this was saying showing off to each other. See, if it had been let go, you would see that the goal is that should let you see we show off to each other. This ain't even trying to talk about we trying to show off to nobody else. This is to each other. We show off these things to each other. And I'm going to just read the explanation and then we're done. right? Let's just read through the explanation and then we're done for today. We'll see you guys at 6 for 12 minutes of Christmas, or we'll see you at 8 for the live session, or prayerfully both. Amen. All right, here we go. Explanation. Many non-white people spend much time / energy / money showing off to each other. They do this as a means of trying to make the overall effects of racism, white supremacy on their personal affairs seem unimportant and or non-existent. This show-offism serves no constructive purpose. Now, don't miss what he just said. They, so black persons, black people, don't get offended. Black people, they do this as a means of trying to make the overall effects of racism, white supremacy on their personal affairs seem unimportant and or non-existent. So if I show off all the stuff that I get out of white society or that white people allow me to do, then it shows that I'm not really dealing with racism, white supremacy. That's why I show off, right? This show-offism serves no constructive purpose. It doesn't build anything. It only helps non-white people to become more pitiful, primitive, stupid, and or silly in comparison to the activities of white supremacists and or in comparison to white people in general. What's the best example I can give of this as we take our leave? What's her face? Sexy Red. I don't even gotta work that hard. Sexy Red. Sexy Red. Right? She is somebody who literally. Okay, I'm sorry. That person's gonna have to end up being blocked or something soon. Anyways. All right. Sorry. If you see it, you know who you are. Please stop. All right. It's Sexy Red. And it happens with a lot of different persons, but I'm just going to use her as an example. Sexy Red is somebody who basically pops up, and I talked about it earlier today. She's somebody who pops up, and she is supposed to be like show-offism, right? Look at how much money I get, right? Look at how much business I got now. Look at how many men want me. Even if I'm not the baddest whatever out there, men still want me more than they want you because of how much money I make and blah, blah. So I must be better than you, right? Can't nobody stop me, even if I'm doing stuff that's bad for the children. Who cares or whatever. I'm sex free, boom, boom, right? It's show-offism. That's all it is. It's show-offism, right? If you don't like the fact that I'm talking about a sister, okay, let's talk about a brother, right? When you're talking about Drake, nobody want to talk about this, but for real, Drake is show-offism. And it started with the mules, the sisters who are always used as mules in our society. Right? Look at Drake. What is Drake? Show-offism. And he came up, and all they had to do at first was what? Mask it. Oh yeah, I'm sensitive and I'm this and that or whatever. While he's cheating, while he's taking this person's man, this person's woman, right? I don't know if he's taking men. He definitely took person's women and telling y'all why he's doing this. And nobody cares though, because he shows off. And even the stuff that he's allowed to do, right? Stuff that even this is when it really gets tricky. Other black men are not even allowed to show you that side of. Right? Straight up R&B song, but it's sung by somebody LGBTQ plus, and it gets views, right? But that song, I'm sorry, I really don't sing that much anymore, and I'm singing less and less. My voice is getting worse and worse. But what's the song that? Then I saw, why don't you stay with me? Is that Sam Smith? Because you're all I need. That one, right? Forgive my voice. You have a bunch of R&B singers, and none of them are even being approached with something like that, but they give it to Sam Smith. We're not supposed, like, the R&B songs for brothers now are always supposed to be on the down low, right? Even the songs that you like, keep it on the down low, right? It's supposed to be about y'all breaking up. It's supposed to be about leave your man, right? I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. Like lyrics, leave your man, LL Cool J with Boys to Men, right? This is more than a crush. I see you at the bus stop waiting every day. Huh, your man must think it's safe for you to travel that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not supposed to just be in love. We're supposed to be breaking up families. We're supposed to be dividing. We're supposed to be, but, right? You're not supposed to just have a straight up love song. Tyler Perry movies, right? Whatever, right? That's how stuff works. That's racism, white supremacy, even in your music. We don't think about even something like that grounded. Right? Even some real stuff. I like I'm gonna get this. I forget who something brothers. It's not the Doobie Brothers. Who is it? That song. What a fool believes he sees. The wise man has the power. Right. That guy. That song. That's a deep song. You don't get to sing songs like that though. Your songs, they're at least they're not gonna pop. Your songs are supposed to be things that break you guys up. You said John Legend made an excellent love song and accepted, but who did he marry? Yeah, right. Chrissy Teigs, is that her name? And even some of the stuff that he sung, but you gotta look at some of his stuff and we don't look at it holistically, right? Like I love Take It Slow. Girl, I'm in love with you. This ain't no honeymoon past the infatuation phase. Like those lyrics are amazing. But the first track on the album, right? Right? Baby, when I used to love you. I had to stop listening to the song because I was like, dang, I can't be involved in a marriage. And I was playing that out. And I was like, I can't be a husband and be playing, baby, when I used to love you. Right? Can't do it. Can't do it. But that's why, like we're gonna talk about tonight, or we talked about on Friday when we come into Ephesians tonight, we're gonna start talking about why it's Ephesians 5:22. But we were talking about what's in your songs. Guard your gates. You know. So, anyways, we'll leave it there. I know we went over. Thank you guys for being on. Appreciate love you. Since we've been over, I will not take any more of your time for the rest of the day. Just know that we have our uh, our 12 Minutes of Christmas meetup at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time on Zoom. It'll be put on Google Calendar invite. It'll be put on Patreon for everybody, no matter what kind of member you are. You can be free member or otherwise. You should be able to see it. So please, man, please, sir, go there and look for that. It's 11/11, by the way. Thank you. Um, and But yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern New York time, 12 Minutes of Christmas. At 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time, we'll do our live session, getting back into the Ephesians series. I think it's part 11. And then other than that, we hope that you guys have a great day. Thank you again to everybody who was on with us last night. Thank you to everybody who was on with us for Early Rise Bible Study session. Appreciate love you, Apostle Dr. Tamar, and we should talk to you guys soon. We're gonna do our shout out. If you know how the shout out works, or even if you don't, just stick around for a little bit. You got to come over to TikTok, but just come over to TikTok. We'll do the shout out real quick together, and hopefully you'll enjoy. But thank you all again. Appreciate love you. Mad respect and love and honor to everybody on here. And we thank you so much. Thank you for helping us to continue to grow. And we hope that what we're doing is causing a positive effect. And prayerfully, you're getting something out of this series. This series is still going to be going on for at least another week, if not maybe even a little longer. So just kind of, be ready to kind of stick around for a little bit. We still got a ways to go. And if you have gotten the book, or if you do use a PDF, or if you do look at an audio book or listen to an audio book, whatever the case might be, make it a point to really, hone in on this stuff and know that you're really supposed to like get this in full, right? So we're hitting little pieces of it. We're trying to go through little pieces, but this is something that really, if you were to get this book, you could probably read it for the rest of your life and still miss some of the things that are in it. It's an excellent workbook. I'm thankful Junior where his heart was on it. And we thank you all again. Appreciate love you. I'll even try to see if I can post in a couple places some of the videos of Dr. Neely Fuller Jr.'s interviews, so you guys can listen through and hear, the tone of things that are going on. It's very great when he speaks, especially. I really like listening to him. So anyways, love you all to life. We're going to take care. You guys take care as well. We'll see you guys at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time. And as always, We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we love you all to life. You guys take care. And as always, remember that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. Peace. Hope you enjoy the shout out. Take care.